Hello, my loves, and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I'm Lala, your host for today, and I'm an international real estate agent. And today, we're actually diving into a topic that's been stirring up a lot of conversations online. There is a video of a 39-year-old woman's emotional plea for a husband that has gone viral. She's expressing a deep desire to get married, saying she doesn't care if he has nothing. She just wants a man to marry. In a society where many women are thriving in their careers but struggling to find love, what does this say about the state of relationships? We'll also explore another viral video where a woman suggests that due to the gender ratio, women will eventually have to share men. So we've got a lot to unpack today. But before we move forward, I want to introduce my co-queens. Today, I am joined by Athena Gardner. She is our CPA and wealth coach. Moya, who is our tax professional, and Tiara Williams, actress, producer, and boss. Hi, queens. How are you today? We got a lot to talk about. The comments are already popping, but let's go ahead and start off with the video that is the main topic of our discussion today.
I need a husband. I'm tired of singleness. I'm 39 years old. Very soon I'll enter menopause, please. I need a husband in my life. No matter what you are doing, I'm going to marry you. Are you a barrel pusher? Are you a beggar? Are you a conductor? Please marry me. Please, I'm going to sponsor the marriage. I'm going to give you money to pay my bride price. I'm going to sponsor the wedding with my money. Please come and marry me. I'm tired of singleness. Please. I'm 39 years old. Please come and marry me. I'm getting old. I'm getting old, please. I need a husband in my life. I need a man in my life. I'm tired of singleness. Please, I don't want to buy myself. I no longer sleep. All my mates are married with kids. But nobody wants to marry me. Nigerians, please, I'm calling everybody out. Please come and marry me. If you have a brother that needs a wife, please let me know. I don't care about what you are doing. I don't care. Even if you don't have a job, I'm going to sponsor it. I need a man in my life, please. I'm 39 years old. Look at me. Please, 39 years old without a child. 39 years old without a husband. 39 years old with no relationship.
I don't know about you, queens, but actually this kind of breaks my heart. And we have actually a lot of great comments, and I want to hear your comments about what that video invokes in you. What are your thoughts, views? But I want to talk to my queens. So I'm going to start with you, Athena. Athena, what is your initial thoughts on this video?
Well, initially, I thought that this was very heartbreaking to see a woman make such a public plea in this case. I also do feel that this doesn't necessarily help her case. If I was a man looking at this, I would be off-put by it. And I think that it will attract like predators towards her or men who are just trying to use her. I did send this to one of my guy friends, though, and he did say it was kind of like hard to watch a woman do that. It does not make us look great when we do. It does not make us, but I extend compassion to her. But I think there's a better way. I know a lot of times it can feel like we're on this 12 years a slave timeline with things, but I would not go about this method of trying to get a man.
That's a good thought. I mean, I guess I honestly didn't even think of it that way. Me being married for 31 years, I know what my husband means to me. And marriage to me is a sacred thing. And I want people to be able to experience that joy that I have with my husband. So my heartstrings immediately went out to her because I know what it's like to be in a loving and healthy relationship. And I just want that for other queens because I think that is important if they want that in their life. So I had a hard time with this one, and I literally cried when I first saw it because I felt her pain. But I want to know what you feel about it, Tiara. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So, of course, I felt like, I saw the desperation, But it made me think about, ever since I've turned 40, I feel like I see American women doing this. I think I see women in my friend group doing this, maybe not doing this to this extent, but this is like the intention. Like, this is like, if they don't have children, if they don't have families, husband or children, family husbands, I feel like there's a desperation for that. Maybe it doesn't come off like this, but that's the energy that I feel from them, coming from a lot of American women. So much so that we see desperation, we see people, having sister wives, and multiple situations, so I just think that it's something that I'm seeing more of, and maybe women aren't saying this exactly, but this is the energy I'm getting from even some of my friends. Like, I need a husband now, I want to be married, I need kids, I need it, I mean, because 45 is coming, or whatever. There's this urgency that I feel like makes them a little desperate.
And I think we see that also in our side communities, not where people are actually putting it out in public like that so much. I think a lot of our girlfriend groups, we get together, we feel comfortable in saying those things. But this lady seems so upset and so pressured for this and wants this so much in her life that she decided that she would actually come out and talk about it, which to me, I'm sorry, that's brave. That's, you know what? I know she's getting negative and positive situations, but at least she put it out there. Maybe this feels like this is where she needs to do it. Maybe she doesn't have a girlfriend circle. So I'm going to throw it to you. Moya, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was building off of what Tier was saying. And it's mainly, I want to know, who is the video for? Who is it aimed for? Like, is it aimed at men? Like, because if it's aimed at men, then I'm going to come out with the plea looking good, appealing to the man's eye, if that's who it's for. Now, is it for some women to feel bad for me so they can hook me up with their brothers and their cousins and their uncles? Maybe. It missed me with who is the video for?
Okay, so I'm going to throw a monkey wrench in this. I mean, do you think that it is society who pushes us to want to be this way, or we are so pressed to be a part of the norm that we feel that this is something that must happen in our life, whether we honestly want it or not, that it is regardless? Or do we get too tied up into the marriage itself instead of the relationship? So I'm going to ask you that, Athena. Do you think that society is the one that's pressing this, or this is a genuine desire for women in general? Not all, because it doesn't fit the whole mold, but women in general.
I think it's a combination of the two. I don't think it's just, I think biologically there are some urges that arise as a woman gets older, and you're looking at a timeline saying that, okay, if I want a husband and children, then the traditional regular route, then if I don't hit it at this time, then it's going to miss me, right? So there's that aspect. I do think there's a societal pressure, because if you are a single woman and you are not married by a certain age or have children by a certain age, questions come up and people start to question if you're crazy, if there's something wrong with you, because these things haven't happened within a certain time. I know people think that about me. And I'm not even as old as the woman on this video, right? Especially in certain cultures, especially, I think she's African. It's even worse. So it's even, I'm sure she's getting that even worse. I also have to say, it's not just society in the sense of, oh, it's this greater group. Family and friends do this too. And we also have to talk about how marriage is viewed as a status symbol for women. If you are not married, then if you're a single woman, there's something perceived as wrong with you, or when you're within a marriage, they're saying, oh, you've gotten this prize, you are a married woman, someone chose you, someone picked you. There's a lot of married people suffering, right? So that's why I'm very relaxed, I'm very calm, even though I have faced within my own family or in society as general, it's like, oh, you must be high maintenance, you must be picky, why haven't you settled on somebody, right? And I refuse to buy into the propaganda, because I know those same people are not going to pay for my divorce if I need one. So that's my advice to women. But I do think that a lot of societal pressures, especially within our families and communities, could be a driving factor in this.
I agree. I think to some point it does, as well as us also filling our biological clock if we do want children, and the ramifications that used to come, not so much nowadays, if you ask me, if you have children out of wedlock. But even up to the 70s and 80s, I was 16. I wasn't married yet. There was still stigma with that when I had my son. So I don't see that so much today, but I think those are great points. Let's look at some of the comments that we have, because we have some really good comments and I want to address those. And I might challenge you as well. Don't just come in and throw in just general comments. I'm going to make you to go deep because we want to have these conversations. Now, Oma said that I haven't heard her yet. This was before we actually got started. And I'm like, what? It's so sad when my people truly don't overstand themselves and what's going on with, I think she means understand themselves, and what really is going on with us as people. The point of marriage is love. That's first. Very interesting take. JT, you said all you can say is run. All right, I'm gonna need you to expound on that. Why would you run? Why would you say run to someone who may be considering her? Coley says, girl, stand up. I think we all have a weakness at some point where if you are in something that you want really bad and it's not coming to you and what you feel is your time frame, we do get a little sad and desperate about it not being in our life. But, you know, what can she do to stand up, Coley? I want to hear what your thoughts are on that. Evelyn says, pray, church. Oma says, Jesus. And Michael Burris says she can easily find a husband, just may not be Black. Do you think that she should open up her thoughts to other communities as well? And then Chuck, I'm going to address you today. I'm going to address you because I love at least you're here. He said, I need a wife right now. A loyal, loving, honest, beautiful, smart wife. I need her right now. I'm about fed up with the women and their bullcrap. Please help me. Okay, Chuck, let's look at this. It has to be a give and take in these situations. What do you have to offer to someone as well? And what would you want them to be able to offer you? I told you I was going to challenge y'all. But if you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Today is Friday's edition. So we're going to have a little fun with this. And we're going to see if we can get down to some answers. If you love what you're watching and you don't want to miss an episode, all you have to do is text us. Text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948. And you'll get a reminder when we go live. And then, hey guys, if you just miss us and you just want to catch up, check us out on Spotify. And when you get over there and you look us up, Fly Nubian Money, make sure you give us a 5-star rating. This will help us get seen more. And you'll also get notification when we come on there if you subscribe. So I'm super excited about this. Now, ladies, we saw that point of view. Now I want to dig into the second point of view. So we have another video that we want to run for you, and I'm going to get your thoughts on that as well.
There are more women on this planet than men. In the United States, we have about 1/4 of our population in jail. Another 1/4 of our population identifies as LGBTQ. So with that being said, it is a nigga shortage out here. It is a shortage of available good niggas out here. So for all you bitches that think you deserve your own nigga, like your own personal nigga, like that's only yours. Like, okay, it's some women that do. But are you that bitch? Like, what do you bring to the table and make you think you deserve your own nigga and it's a nigga shortage? Sis, grow up. You gonna have to share that nigga. That's our nigga.
Okay, well, first, I don't call myself a bitch. And I don't typically call other people in my community the N-word either, because I feel like if you don't want other people calling us that, then I'm not even going to do that within my own community. But that's me. Hey, Okay, I may be the weird one on the panel. I want to hear your thoughts about that as well. But before we move on, I want to look at some stats, guys, because we're going to tap into this. So we have a couple of stats about this. So let's see what we got on the percentages of women and men. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, there are approximately 86 men for every 100 women in the U.S. This gender ratio can play a significant role in dating dynamics. That's a pretty big gap. A study by the Pew Research Center found that 52% of Black women between the ages of 25 and 54 are unmarried, compared to 36% of Black men. I think we all here on this panel fall within that age range. I am actually 54, so I guess I'm right at the tip of that. So Tiara, what are your thoughts on this? Do you believe this plays into the role and this is something that we should open our mind to as Black women?
You know, it's so interesting. First of all, no. No, 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 no. I don't agree with this at all. It's really interesting because I often hear people say this, like this is a narrative, like there's not enough men, such a scarcity kind of mindset where you just don't feel like there's anyone out here for you. It's so funny because I hear men say the same thing. So I think there's a quality shortage, maybe, but not like a man shortage. Like I meet good men all the time, right? Like I meet nice guys, I meet bad boys. I mean, uh, I feel like everything is out here, and I feel like you can get what you want when you're able to see, or maybe you're healed enough to accept, or when you're prepared, right? They always I hear this, what is it? It says when you're ready for a teacher, they will appear, or whatever that saying is. I feel like when you're ready for anything, it'll appear. I'm ready for a husband. I'm ready to start this thing. I think it all kind of appears when you're ready for it. So I don't subscribe to this. I'm not sharing my man with somebody else. I'm not doing that.
When the
Yeah, no,
student is ready,
don't come at
they're
me
ready,
because mine ain't up nowhere for none and nobody. He's mine. Mine,
You're
mine,
not
mine.
sharing your husband, Lala?
No, 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 no. You can listen to his music all day long and drink, but you cannot have him. He is
I know
mine.
that's I know that's right.
And y'all hear me say all the time, I am his as well. So it's not like I'm like being hoggish. We feel that way about one another. And his views, I'll be very clear, his views are there should be no cheating at all. He thinks that's very despicable in any type of situation. So that's how he feels. But that's why we're equally yoked. Equally yoked. See, that is a part of being in a committed relationship. Moya, do you feel that this video of her is an unrealistic situation for our communities? Is this something that you think that we really need to be addressing? Because there are poly communities out there, and we are actually kind of growing in that thought process.
That's very true. You're right, Lala. Like, there's a lot of people that are open to the new phrase is like a situationship, meaning like we're together, but we're not really together, but we're not committed, but I really only see him. And so people are really open to it. But I think it's really based upon what Tiara was saying in the sense of what is really your goal with it. As I really love what Athena said in terms of propaganda. Like, I just believe that this is really propaganda. Like, I'm 40 and I feel like I've been hearing this since I was 18, that there's a shortage of men. Like, so I just want to know what it is. Like, so when you look at, for example, because I had to look it up, as of right now, we have 1.1 million African-American men in prison. And according to Black demographics, we have 20 million men available in the United States, Black men. So her statistics are way off. I think we need to really take a deeper dive into what Tiara said. And she said, when you're healed enough to accept, I had to write that down because I love that. When you're healed enough to accept what's been given to you, are you ready to take it? Are you ready to embrace it? Are you ready to love it? Are you ready, as you said, Lala, to be equally yoked? And so I think that's really what we need to be focusing on, not this situation, not this situationship that everyone's open to as of right now, I feel like.
I agree, because you know what? Being married also is not always a happy situation. We do talk about a lot of things on this channel where marriage is People in committed marriages are also having a lot of problems. So I don't think the marriage itself is the answer. It just isn't. You have to look at the whole thing as a whole picture. But let's see what some of the people that are watching us and joining us today are saying. Donna says she wants to hear from the lady with the purple flowers behind her. So I think you hit that right on time. Well, you hit it right on time. GMB says friendship and relationships should start way before becoming desperate. I have to agree with that. I think that everything takes time. We're so rushed to get to the marriage part. How about we take the time to learn one another and what's important to one another before we move on to the next point? I see a lot of shaking heads here. How are you feeling about that, Tiara?
Yeah, I think we should just work on ourselves. In order to have a successful anything, what alarmed me is that this young lady on the video, for going back to the video, she was like, I don't care if you don't have a job. I don't care if you're a beggar. I don't care. I just want a man. It's like, sis, how reel that in? Like it does. Why do you feel that way? Like, it's just so it's like overwhelming to hear her say that it doesn't matter as long as she has someone in place. And somebody said it, somebody said that, you're just kind of setting yourself up to be taken advantage of. Sis, if you pay for the wedding, if you pay for his life, or you're sponsoring his life, you're gonna be sponsoring his whole life forever.
Yeah,
That's why he's coming. So
that's
you can
right.
take care of him, and he's gonna have a woman over there and a woman over there, and you're gonna be paying money, and you're not gonna be happy. So
And
just
Athena said that, that brings predators.
yeah,
That
watch what
brings
you ask God
predators.
for. You gotta watch what you ask God for. You gotta watch what you ask people for, because He'll bring it. But it's not gonna look like what you think you want.
Exactly. I really believe in that. You got to be very specific. Don't just throw generalities out there. Tanel says, God does want us to be fruitful and multiply. And if a man findeth and wife, he has findeth a good thing. This is a reward from God. Being married is a blessing from God if you do it the right way. Yeah, but there are many different right ways in culture. Poly also says it's right way too. The poly community with more than one wife, that's also in the Bible too, where men had more than one wife. Oh, Tiara, go ahead. I saw the finger.
Can I bring up, I don't know if I came across when I was looking at this topic, I came across Minister Minister Yadan. I'm not sure if y'all know this young man, but he's
I
obviously
know
like,
him.
you know him. So the way he has his marriage is set up, he has two wives, but he pays for everything. He makes sure that he like splits his time. He give like bought everybody a house. I mean, obviously he has some money, but he's made sure that everyone feels seen, heard. Like, he just loves these two women, which I thought was interesting, because it was like the way that I saw him take care of his women. I mean, I'm not necessarily open to that, but I could see why those women would be like, this is safety. Yes, this is going to be in Africa. I'm in America. Like, this is the situation. This is the setup. I just thought that was really interesting. I guess in situations like that, but I see men that want to just have women and they broke and want to stress people out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
The
you getting
ghetto
cheated on.
Rachi. They want us
Like, if
to
you're going to be in a
embrace the ghetto
situation,
Rachi.
listen, if you're gonna be in a situation, make sure that you got a house. Make sure that he is taking care of you. She said, I bought them houses. They own 50% of we own a 50% of the business together. I told her for the first several years of our relationship to just get her mind together, just worry about herself emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And that's all she has to worry about. I'll take care of everything else. Listen, if you're gonna be in a situationship, that's the situationship I want to be in.
Right. And as long as y'all all agree, that's
Yes.
that's the thing. It's not the problem comes when you got that and the other person don't know. Because there are many, many stories about people who have multiple wives, and the one wife think he's off on traveling for work, and he's actually with this second wife and family, and they don't know about it until years and years later. I do want to just remind you that you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We're here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We love that you are here spending some time with us. Keep the comments coming because they are very, very great comments, and we will address those as well. If you love us and you want to make sure that you don't miss anything, and you know you love us, go ahead and text the word Queens, Queens, to 87948, and you'll be notified when we come on live. Now, if you think you've got what it takes to come on here and chat with us and debate and have wonderful conversations, all you got to do is email us. It's so simple. Email us at info@realvirtual.net. And I'm going to spell that, okay? info@REELVIRTUAL.net. So go ahead, you want to come and join us. We would love to have you. But let's dive back into this conversation. Let's address some of the comments that were put on that first video that we watched from the general public. Because I think that it shows both sides, some compassion and some that are just kind of tired of this and feels like it's a ploy. So let's look at this first comment. Erica Bonnie said she's crying because she doesn't have someone making her miserable. Make it make sense. All right, Moya, I'm going to tap you on this one. Do you necessarily think that just because she wants to get married that someone is going to make her miserable?
Yes, I do. I do.
I love it. I swear I love my queen.
Because I just feel like the way that with her, the energy that she's bringing, she just needs it. She needs it. It's what fuels her. It's what wakes her up in the morning. That's what she's really thriving upon. Because if you go back to some of the comments, what Tierra was saying, like, are we talking about marriage? Or and someone said that marriage is equal to love? Or is it just, I want somebody in my life and I'm okay being taken care of? Those are two very, very different things, but they still fall under me being married per se, or me being in a relationship. So she must want it. She must.
I think that's a great answer, because you know what? You do have two schools of thoughts. You're either going to do it and be happy about it, or you're either going to do it and you're going to be miserable. You see people walking around with t-shirts all the time. Like you have, yes, me and my husband have the cute one. Been together since 19 such and such on ours, right? And then you see the t-shirts of the couples like, yeah, I'm with her. Or, vice versa. It's just the funniest thing. I guess it's all, perceived in your mind on how that is. And actually, listen, we have a comment from Willie Hayward Jr. And he says, I'm a single man and would love to be in a long-term relationship. However, learning to be whole within has to be a priority. I think that is absolutely on the target, because if you don't take care of you, and you understand what you need in your life and who you are. And guys, sometimes you have to just kind of grow into that too. I was married at 23. I didn't quite know what all I wanted. I knew the general principles of that, but I still also had to dig in deep to see who I was. But so did my husband. So we actually grew together. I'm going to tell y'all a little secret. When we first got married, I grew up in a little community. Like all of my aunties and uncles were always together. They were always out doing things. I thought that's what we were supposed to do. So when we got married, I'd be like, where you going? I'm coming. And I always felt like I was the little shadow. But I grew up and knew he needed time to himself. And so did I. And then that made the time together more sweeter, because we took care of what we needed and we brought that forth. So Athena, is that something that you're looking for in a relationship? I know that you're in the dating scene. What's important to you?
Listen, I know some of the main ears perked up on this question. What's important to me? You might want to find out on the Fly Nubian After Dark show. But right now, it is very important to me that a man is committed to his purpose in life, is focused on his own self-actualization, definitely has economic stability on his own. I never usually have an issue with that, so I don't even feel to bring that up, and does not interrupt my own spirituality and my feminine expression. Those are very high on my list. And Amanda has good character, which that one little piece on the list seemed to just cut the list down by like 80%. Just cut the list down by 80%. Ladies, catch us on the Fly Nubian After Dark show, because I have dated a cost tax bracket hunty Okay, whether he make 100,000, 100 million, and that one little character trait seemed to be the thing that men struggle with.
But
But what I
how soon do you know that, Athena? Do you tend to know that up front, or do you end up finding that over amount of time, or do they able cut themselves down early?
some men cut themselves out early, but I find that that's why I say in dating, like her energy, the lady that was on the video, her energy is not really the great energy to have to attract a mate, because you kind of have to slow walk this thing a little bit. Take your time and be relaxed and control your emotions, because even in dating, and we can discuss this, further on the After Dark show, but what I find a lot of men are doing is trying to do things to get you attached very quickly, to get that dopamine rush. Like, I was love bombed like 2 weeks ago, but it was like the best love bombing ever. I'll save that story for another time too. But I was love bombed, and I knew he was doing it the whole time, but I went along with it just because I wanted to see how far he was going to go. Right. And I realized, I was like, men are out here playing all kind of games. I'm not saying women don't either. This is not supposed to bash men entirely. But because I had the mindset, regardless of what's going on, I'm going to take my time to get to know this stranger I just met. I was able to pick up on that, right? And I think women need to take their time regardless, because the character stuff is going to be revealed over time. Everyone has their best representative in the beginning.
I agree. I think we all want to present ourselves in the best light to even get to the second step of the second date. I do believe. We have some really great comments. I love Vincent John Doom. And he says, I think that bums exploited the ride or die thing, and women are unwilling to build and grow with men. Women seem as they want a man to be already built and come with no imperfections. Oh, Tiara, thoughts. Should a man be without blemish? Are
I
we?
mean, would you buy a house with no foundational walls, studs, or whatever? Aren't you buying a built
Athena,
house?
this is my
I'm
question.
sorry. I just have to throw I hate when they do that. You gonna buy an unfinished house? All right, go ahead.
Listen, a man does not have to be perfect. No. But he definitely has to have a baseline of just certain things. There has to be certain things present. You know what I mean? We'll just keep it at that. He doesn't need to be perfect, but there has to be some integrity present. Like Athena said, he has to have good character. I prefer men who have their own thing, who are doing their thing, who are happy in what it is that they found purpose. Because if they haven't found purpose and you found purpose, they're gonna be looking over at you like jealous of that you found your purpose. So they just have to have their thing. They can't have a competitive spirit. Those are my personals. But to answer your question, Lala, no, he does not need to be perfect. He just needs to be perfect for you, perfect for me.
That's right. My mother
Yeah.
always told me there's always somebody for somebody. And when those two get together, you can't deny it. So maybe you just haven't found the right person. And that can be hard in today's world, because I actually do love that Vincent Von Doom said waiting to a man to have their act together is why people are merging later and having kids later. He feels that this is going to ruin us later on. And I'm not so sure that's true, but sometimes we do get only a certain amount of time as women and our biological clocks. However, there are so many things to help us with infertility as well. So do you think that that's a problem, Moya? Do you think that the fact that we're waiting later to have these relationships is a problem?
Well, I feel like Tira has something to say.
No, I just feel
I have
like men
something to
are
say.
not mature. I feel like men are not mature. We're waiting later because it takes forever for y'all to get on the bus.
You
Like,
have
get
us
on
on
the
a
bus,
12 years
bro.
a slave
Like,
timeline. They have
okay,
us
so
on a
if
12 years a
21
slave timeline to get their stuff together.
listen, if we are, let's say women start to mature sometime around like 25. I mean the good ones, right? The ones that are in college, we're starting to think about like, what does my future look like? Men still be somewhere like being remedial. I don't know, special. Like they just
Thoughting
can't
and
quite
bopping.
get it together.
Thoughting and bopping. That's
Listen,
what they're doing. What we're trying to plan. They're thoughting and bopping.
yeah, so even around, like, they're still trying to figure themselves out. Black women typically be like, this is what I'm about to do. This When I was 25, I was like, oh, I'm about to take over Hollywood. Like, I had a plan. I was meeting men who were like, I don't know. I mean, I'm just gonna like be around. I mean, at 40, men kind of still feel that way. So men aren't really getting men. I was dating a guy that was like 48. He was 48 and still like, I mean, I really don't know what I want to do with my life. What? What? Oh, no, 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 no. You can't be 48 and not know. Like, what are we about to do? No. So to answer your question, and you didn't ask me, you asked Moya. But he just needs to be mature. He needs to be mature. Like, it's just taking y'all a while to get on the bus. So young black men, or black men that are, even if you black and you over 40, black men over 40, between the age of 40 and 60, get your life together. Just be mature. And then we can do this earlier.
And what I will say too is this, right? This is the analogy I use, right? They always say,
Moya, she's like, I don't know.
You want us to be built. You want us to be built.
This is Moya's question.
I'm just saying, all right, Moya, you're going to have the floor later. But I'm saying this.
Moya.
We're not taking on no HGTV flip the house projects, okay? We can assist you. We can come in. We might, repaint a wall and put some new throw cushion, new curtains. But if we got to strip the house down to the stud and start over with you, we are not doing that. I'm sorry.
We ain't doing it.
No.
What were you saying, Moya? What were you saying, Moya?
Okay, so I have a very unique point of view on this. So I'm divorced, but what was unique is my ex-husband, we got together at 19 and we married, or we got in a committed relationship within 6 months. And then from there, we were married for 14 years. So it was a very, very long time. And obviously at 19, you're willing to do whatever it takes to grow and to build and to do what's needed. Now, obviously that's now 40. So I'm in a different place in my life. So there's no way that I would do everything that I did. Like he has his own business. So I'd be sending out postcards. I'd be calling other businesses. I'd be setting up, like, ride or die is definitely what I was. And so it's a real thing, but it's at this older age, you still committed to ride or die, but no one's doing all of that at this stage.
Man, we ain't riding or dying no more. Moya, we ain't riding or dying no more.
Why I gotta die?
I gotta die.
You want me to live and thrive. Why I gotta ride and die?
Live and thrive.
Not ride or die.
Who's
gonna send out the postcards? Listen, who's gonna send out the postcards for me? Who gonna call other businesses for me? Like, why we always gotta do it for them?
I love it. I love it.
It's definitely traditional in the sense of like the role of a woman and being a partner for her man, but you have to be at a stage to where you're self-sustaining, and me coming in is a bonus. Me coming in is an add-on, not like me coming in as your secretary or assistant. Like, that is just different.
I was your lover and your secretary. Every day of the week. Okay.
I am loving it. This is definitely a Friday conversation. This is definitely a Friday conversation.
Let Lala reset.
I'm trying to get that, Tiara. I'm trying. If you are just joining us, we are having a good time. As you can see, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as you can see, we do have a wonderful time. And I hope that you're having a good time watching us as well. But guess what else we do, guys? We actually help you to get your money right and your money tight. You didn't know that? Well, all you need to do is go over to our website, and that is flynubianmoney.com. And we have resources, tips and tricks, and courses that you could take to help you get your money right. Listen, if you're confused, you don't even know where to start. A lot of times people don't even want to look at it. They feel like they don't even have a starting point. You do. If you at least have a starting point, you can see the goal line. So that is what we're doing. So you want to make sure you head on over to that website and go ahead and get started on that. Also, if you don't want to miss the show, you got to just get your little assistant. Hello, Siri. Text in the word Queens, Queens, to 87948, and you'll be reminded of when we go live. I want to address some of these comments because they are definitely popping over there. I love all of our people. Now, listen, Vincent has been very, very vocal, but I think he also has a lot of really good takes on his side as well. He says, I think we ruined relationships as we know it, and it's going to be hard to see marriages for people between 21 and 30. I think that's really interesting. Now, I do have to give a shout out to this person because faithful to our show is Armando. Armando, we love you. We are so glad you are here. We love it when you're here. We love your energy.
Wait,
I love it.
Wait, somebody else that's here all the time is Terry Wilson. So, hey, girl, hey.
Yes, and Exquisite also has some great comments too. But Armando says he's sorry. I could not take the first video seriously. The lady didn't appear to have her hair done, like nothing done to it at all. She's just trying to go viral. I'm not sure about that one, Armando. Maybe not. In the today's world, a lot of people want to go viral. Vincent also says, I think the lady in the video needs better people around her to keep her confidence up. And Exquisite says, everything that she is putting out there will put in a bad place. She will end up hurt or becoming bitter. And she's, I know, talking about when we were talking about how she could possibly be attracting predators. And, you know, there's many different comments on this. I actually want to run this video again because I want to address a different aspect of this. So if we can watch that first video again, I got something I want to ask you ladies afterwards.
I need a husband. I'm tired of singleness. I'm 39 years old. Very soon I'll enter menopause, please. I need a husband in my life. No matter what you are doing, I'm going to marry you. Are you a barrel pusher? Are you a beggar? Are you a conductor? Please marry me. Please, I'm going to sponsor the marriage. I'm going to give you money to pay my bride price. I'm going to sponsor the wedding with my money. Please come and marry me. I'm tired of singleness. Please. I'm 39 years old. Please come and marry me. I'm getting old. I'm getting old, please. I need a husband in my life. I need a man in my life. I'm tired of singleness. Please, I don't want to buy myself. I no longer sleep. All my mates are married with kids, but nobody wants to marry me. Nigerians, please, I'm calling everybody out. Please come and marry me. If you have a brother that needs a wife, please let me know. I don't care about what you are doing. I don't care. Even if you don't have a job, I'm going to sponsor it. I need a man in my life, please. I'm 39 years old. Look at me. Please, 39 years old without a child. 39 years old without a husband. 39 years old with no relationship.
That girl said, if you are a barrel pusher, baby. She said, if
She
you are
said
a
she was going
barrel
to
pusher.
sponsor it all. But that brings me to this question, ladies. Mental health could be a factor here. I mean, she's probably gotten herself into a very mental state about this. You heard her say that everyone around her is married and she is not. And she's probably worked herself up so much wanting to be what she sees around her that this has affected her mental health. So, I'm going to ask you, Moya. Moya, I'm going to ask you.
Moya.
How does the pressure to marry or the feeling of not so many men in the dating pool affect women's mental and emotional well-being?
That's a very good question. I mean, so there's levels to it in the sense of it really depends upon how confident you are to begin with. And I do know in some cases, some women feel like they got in a bad situation. And because they got in a bad situation, they feel like that represents them and they're not worthy enough or they're not deserving enough to be in a very positive situation and open to love and open to acceptance. And so there's that there also. So that's what I believe.
Yeah, because I actually do have a friend that worried herself so sick about getting married that she did attract the wrong man. And he left her in such a mental and devastating state, not only mentally, but physically and financially as well. She got so caught up into the marriage part of it that she didn't think of anything else about that. Do you think that that is what we do to ourselves, Athena?
Yes, I think when we operate out of a state of desperation, we get into the mindset we'll just accept anything, or we'll get in the mindset of settling and compromising and not think about the longevity or what is needed, right? Or we'll just accept everything. And that's why abundance mindset is so great. But I have a solution to her problem that will fix everything. It will fix the depression, it will fix the man issue. You know, I was like, maybe Tiara, we need a call-in dating show and people can call in and ask me for advice. Because I was like, all she need to do is she willing to pay for the wedding, pay for the bride price, everything. All she need to do is book a nice week-long vacation in Jamaica. She can go relax, cure the depression. All the men them will flock to her. A lot of them looking for a visa. And that will solve her problem. Some of them will even pay her. So she even got to come out of pocket.
Athena, every time I go to Jamaica, I do meet a man. Every time. I be having like a little, like, it don't be like a Jamaican rendezvous, but he'll come over to the hotel every day and be like, hey, my queen. I be like, hey.
Girl from the airport.
Do y'all remember the skit with Eddie Murphy where he's like, you better not let your woman go to Jamaica because Dexter St. John back. What you doing over here, woman, on the bay?
Where you think they just sell it to her the back in Jamaica? That is par for the course. That's what I'm saying.
I've never been.
They catch you off the plane.
Yes, every time.
Now, see, I'm not ready for that. I wouldn't even know what to do with myself with that. I would probably freak out. Big Mac, who is also one of our people who come to see us every day. Big Mac, we do love you. You always like to challenge. He said we got to get rid of our ego. Big Mac, how we got an ego? Tell us how we got an ego on trying to make sure that, we are in the right relationship. We just love for you to comment because you like to tease us. And we know what that means. That just means you love us. Listen, ladies, I want to look again a little bit at the second part of our video because we're talking about her wanting a man so bad. Should she do what the second video says? So let's watch again what the second video suggests for our community.
There are more women on this planet than men. In the United States, we have about a quarter of our population in jail. Another quarter of our population identifies as LGBTQ. So with that being said, it is a nigga shortage out here. It is a shortage of available good niggas out here. So for all you bitches that think you deserve your own nigga, like your own personal nigga, like that's only yours. Like, okay, it's some women that do. But are you that bitch? Like, what do you bring to the table and make you think you deserve your own nigga and it's a nigga shortage? Sis, grow up. You gonna have to share that nigga. That's our nigga.
And I will fight someone if they even try. I'm just going to put that right out there. I'm not a fighter. I'm very much a lover, but I will box you if you step to my husband. I will get in that ring. I'm just going to say. But go ahead, Athena.
To all the queens on the panel, because you talked about bringing something to the table. If a man asked you what you brought to the table, what would your response be? How would you honestly respond to that?
I can start. Me, growth, and anything you bring me, I make it better because I can get behind my husband in anything that he wants to do, no matter how crazy it is. Sometimes we do crazy ideas, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and we can sit back and laugh. But if I come to him and also say, I got this crazy idea, he's like, what? He gets excited. So I bring better companionship and a unity to the table. And hey, I have slept on the floor. I have also shared ramen noodles and a Big Mac, and we have grown together. So it's always been something that has been our situation. I understood that assignment, and so did he. But now, Moya.
Me, I wouldn't answer the question because I'm not I'm not gonna battle with what do you bring, don't you bring. Like I know what I have, and it just lets me know that that man has never been around a great woman. Like when they're around a great woman, they would automatically know what she brings, and it may not be for everybody. So I wouldn't answer the question.
I think that's a lovely answer. What about you, Tiara?
Yeah, I agree with Moya. I actually was gonna say I'm not gonna be confrontational, but I'm not gonna answer that because it almost feels very salesy. Like, here's what I bring. Like I'm not about to do that. Listen, if you better Google me, you better figure it
But
out.
listen, no, but
You better
listen,
figure it
y'all.
out. You better
Okay,
figure
let's
that
take it
out.
out of the conversational situation. Don't you, on a date or whoever you're with, you're mentally asking these questions of yourself? This is not something that you just lay out on the table of what you bring to the relationship. Well, of
Yeah,
course,
that's what
some
it
of the
feels
No,
people in
some
like.
our
men are
comments,
asking that.
but don't we do that mentally?
No, that I mean, common sense. The whole point of you talking or going on a date is to eventually find out what you bring to the table. But some men ask that. Some men are like, "What do you bring to the table?"
I see. I don't understand that concept. I'm the weird one in the bunch, and that's okay. But I don't understand that because if someone to ask me that, I would be turned off by that. Definitely,
All right,
definitely.
gentlemen, you've heard the ladies. Do not be asking that question because it turns ladies off.
Oh, somebody asked that in the comments. Got it. Got you.
And
Got it.
then James Thomas says, "I want someone who wants me."
Mm-hmm.
That's got to be mutual. Don't be thinking I'm gonna temporarily use this person. Hey, yeah, he's okay for now, but I'm gonna be looking over and grass ain't always greener. It's not. And Exquisite said that's a good man repellent. She's talking about the video.
Mm-hmm.
And Tanel says this economy is very hard, and it's a lot of us struggling to find love in this crazy economy. We are struggling, my queens. That brings in the financial situation, you all. So, let's take off what do you bring to the table, and let's talk about the financial ramifications. If you are, and I can't answer this because it's not my place to answer it in this situation. If you found a man that was a school janitor, but was building on the side as well, if he wanted to build a business, financially, he's not there yet. Maybe you, Athena, make more than he does. Would this be something that you would be open to?
Well, I feel like I'm being put on the spot. Well, I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it 100. All right, this is the thing with building, right? Because this is a big topic within our community on what circumstances, or he should already be built, and this, that, and the third. Listen, everybody has to do what makes sense for them and what kind of relationship they're trying to create within their own reality. And him in particular, I would have to pass. I would focus on a man, maybe if he had his own business and I saw the potential in the business and he was already doing everything on his own. He didn't need any kind of ambitious push from me. And I can just come and just expand what he had with my knowledge, then fine. But I think the mistake a lot of us do is we put our energy and support backing men who really don't have the gumption to make the business successful. Because I would already say this, if he was someone who already had the business and was already doing well within his arena, then that's fine. But if you have to be the one motivating him to do, that's an issue. That's an issue. If you have to be, all right, honey, we're gonna do this, and if he didn't come, all right, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing, these are my goals, but I just need some refinement, I just need some business acumen or some strategy, great. But if you have to be the one to get the gas cooking, no, no, ma'am. No, ma'am.
What about you, Tiara?
Dang, I thought she was gonna go to
You
Moya
you
first.
you
I
you
was like
making
looking this
more.
way. Yeah, you'd be like, I'm looking this way. I thought you was gonna go to Moya first. Um, I listen, the last person that I talked to, he wasn't, he worked a 9 to 5. He actually had like 2 or 3 jobs, right? And what I loved about him is that he was very like financially responsible. Like I never had to be like, oh, you need to, he had there was other things that he did that that he was passionate about that he still made money from. So, those things that I kind of added to his fire, just saying like, hey, you should do that. And he was able to listen, and it took him from here to there, so I it as long as, but what I loved was that he had like we laughed often. I love to be around him. There was all of these things that really aren't like tangible. Like, I obviously I don't want to take care of nobody. I want to take care of a man, but I don't want to take care of a man from like zero, right? Like I'm a little at this big age, I'm a little too old for that. But I don't mind building. I actually love the idea of building something together. He has his thing, I have mine, and then we create something together. So I'm a builder. I'm naturally like that. You can't sit around me for more than 5 minutes before I'm like, you know what we should do? Like I can't help it. So to answer your question, yes, I'm a builder. I'm all about that life.
I agree. I've never cared what someone else does as long as we could build together. But Moya, you always have a different viewpoint, and I love that about you. So what is your answer to that?
So I think it just depends. So I have this idea that if you're, for example, an alpha woman, this is going to be strange. People are they're not gonna like it. But I believe if you're an alpha woman, you actually need to date a beta man, meaning like a man that just goes with what you need. He's there for you. He's the one. And if you're an alpha man, I believe you need to date an alpha woman. I mean, a beta woman, because an alpha woman, she's just going to annoy you because you guys are going to be going at it because he's going to want to be on top and then you're going to want to be on top. The only way I feel like it works is if you date an alpha man, then that man there, because he's already got it. He's not worried about what you do. You're just kind of like his piece. But obviously everyone attempts to say, what do you have to say, Tiara? I feel like Tiara has something to say.
I am listening to you.
I'm looking at her face. So I feel like
I'm like,
to say.
I'm listening. Go ahead.
So that's what I believe. So I think you have to know yourself and know what it is that you need and know what kind of relationship you want. So if you're not looking to be confrontational, you guys bumping heads all day, then that probably isn't the man. I know because I do taxes. I know men that are janitors that are making $70,000, $80,000. So that's perfectly fine, especially if you're an ambitious woman and you're like, this month was a slow month, babe. You got us. He's gonna be like, of course, right? Because he's got it. So I think you just need to know what you need.
I think that a lot of times we get tied up into what we consider jobs that are lowly. And I'm telling you right now, a lot of those so-called lowly jobs that you think are out there are really killing it in the game. You don't have to go to a 4-year college. You can earn just as much with this beautiful trade school mentality. Because I'm going to tell you, when you hot in the summer and you need an AC person, who you going to call? Right? They making good money. So they off vacationing in the winter. But if your heat go out, they also handle that too. So you better be careful about how you judge certain people's jobs because you never know what that really means behind that. But we are actually almost out of time. I want to address, yes, Tiara.
I do have a question for the queens. Like, do you guys subscribe to the idea that we need to go outside of the Black community for Black men or for for husbands? Do you subscribe to that idea?
I didn't care what color. We could have been polka dot as long as I had a good man. But I also had a really good friendship before we got romantically involved. So I think I was blessed enough to have a really good relationship before we decided to date, then get married. So I was a little different, but I never cared.
Athena?
I love these questions today. I do think we need to be open-minded, but I also do believe that don't feel like you have to, right? Don't feel shamed into I only want to date a Black man. If you only want to date a Black man, then don't feel like, oh, people are like looking at you stupid for that. I feel like, but I do think that we need to be open-minded because sometimes we do. Look at Serena,
Look at Serena.
Okay.
Look at Serena.
Yeah, I'd definitely be open to it.
Open to it.
Look at Serena. Look at Eve. Who else? Who else is in the
I don't know. I
Yeah.
just there's something about a Black man that I just love. Like I just love it. Like I just feel like if I'm laying next to someone and they can we have shared experiences, they kind of know what I'm going through, they know what I've been through. It makes a difference. I think, I'm just, I just love a Black man.
I love
So
a
that
Black
was what
man
I was
too.
wondering. I was wondering how you guys felt about that.
I
Well,
think
Master Reflection is laughing at me because she said, not polka dots. Yes,
Not
girl,
polka
polka
dot.
dots. As long as he's a good person. And then Jimmy Trinard says, men are looking for a helpmate and person who can love us in our times and good times and bad times. If women aren't ready to help and invest, it's a dead deal, non-takers. Interesting. I think that is really an excellent way to look at that. I mean, he seems that there should be a balance in all of this. And Jay Legend said, men settle all the time, and being a stepfather is now considered. SIMP, I'm sorry, I'm old. I don't know all that, what that means. Somebody know what SIMP? Because this 54-year-old girl doesn't know it. So what that
simp
mean? What that mean, Athena?
means that you're a loser. You're a simp. You're a beta. You're
Oh,
simping because you're actually being a good step parent to your woman's kids.
My daughter
That's
told me
what
the other day. Yeah, my daughter told me the other day that a simp was if you down bad for somebody, you like overly down bad for somebody. Like you can't, you give them too much energy. That's what my 13-year-old
so
told
having
oh,
Black
she's
women been
13. She
for a long
knows.
time
me.
for men who have not reciprocated the level of commitment that we have throughout the years.
Wow. All right, ladies. Well, we're going to wind it down, but I'm going to end with a question. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this final question. And please make sure that you share where we can find you as well. I'm going to start with you, Moya. What changes do you think are necessary in our community to support healthier relationships and marriages?
And I'm just going to go back to now the Tierra quote, right? It's you have to be healed enough to accept. I definitely believe it. Whatever you're looking for, you have to be ready and be open to it.
And where can we find you?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at moya.business.
Lovely. There's a lot of people saying the lady with the purple flowers. So you need to go check her out. She told you where you can find her. Now go on over there and go ahead and click like and then talk to her there. Tiara, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
Yes. Y'all, don't get on the internet begging for a man because you're going to bring the wrong attention. Just have faith that the universe, God, whoever you believe, is going to bring you exactly what you need, the perfect thing for you. But trust that. Like you have to be relaxed in this thing. And I would tell her that, the young lady in the video, you got to relax. You got to relax and you have to not necessarily wait. Yes, put yourself out there in a way that's healthy, and hopefully God sends you who you're supposed to be with, but you got to relax in that. You can't do that yourself. My name is Tierra Williams. I'm also known as Miss Black Hollywood. I am at MSBLACK across all platforms. I'm just gonna do a shameless plug here. I believe the baseline of all business, I believe the baseline of a good business is storytelling. And so if you are interested in taking your business to the next level and telling your story, I'm at info@therealnetwork.net.
Yes, and she is all the things, and she is the one running this show. So you want to make sure that you reach out to her as well. And don't forget to email her at info@realvirtual.net if you want to join us on the panel as well. Athena, I'm going to throw the question to you.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
What changes do you think are necessary in our community to support healthier relationships and marriages?
Lord, that was a loaded question, wasn't it? Okay, so healthy changes in our community. Well, I do think we have to be open-minded. I do think we have to work on our own personal skills, communication, all right, conflict resolution, and not look at each other with this combativeness between us, right? Because I think the whole gender war thing is getting in the way a little bit, but also meet each other's needs. My name is Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and wealth coach. You can find me at wewealthwomen.com, at We Wealth Women on all social media platforms, and you can listen to me at the We Wealth Women podcast. For the men, I know I kind of beat up on you guys a little bit this episode. I still love you all. Black men, I still love you. That's who I date. But y'all got one more year before I let Brad and Jose come through.
I love it. And here's my final thoughts. This is not a race. This is not a battle of the sexes. It's a matter of you finding someone who is equally yoked in your beliefs, in your faith, in your financial wheelhouse. Don't rush so much because you think that you want something to actually put yourself on the back burner. Put yourself first where you need to decide what it is that you want in life and then start going for the person who may be equally yoked with you. It may not be easy, but it's not a race because in the end, you want to be happy. And you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I'm an international real estate agent. I help you to buy in the United States as well as Portugal. So get out of the box. If you don't think that you can buy in America, maybe you can buy in a different country and have a better experience. And today we want to say thank you for joining us. You are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We love for you to join us. We love your comments and we appreciate your time because you could be spending it somewhere else. So if you don't want to miss an episode, make sure you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. But I also want to encourage you to make sure that you go to Spotify and download us there and take us on the road with you. We go great with coffee in the morning. So you want to make sure that you do that and then give us a 5-star rating so that we can be found by others as well. We thank you so much. This is Friday. It's Friday. So you're going to have to go and watch some replays to get your dose of these queens. And we will see you Monday. Be blessed and be well. Bye.
Hello, everyone. How are you guys? I am Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia, and I am here today to start chapter 2 of my book club. It is the Healing Haven Book Club. I started it a couple of months ago, and I've been working with a group of individuals, and we've been talking about past painful memories, how we can... I've been working with a group of individuals. Whoa, I don't know why there's an echo. Just a second. Memories, how we can... Hold on. Whoa, I don't know why there's an echo. Just a second. Something's happening. Whoa, I don't know why there's an echo. Just a second. Something's happening. Whoa, I don't know why there's an echo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fly Nubian Money. I am Lala, international real estate agent, and today we are taking a deep dive into the policies of Vice President Kamala Harris. As the first Black and South Asian woman to hold the office, Kamala Harris has introduced and supported various policies that impact everything from healthcare to criminal justice reform. But how are we feeling about these policies? Are they truly addressing the needs of the community? So let's unpack some of it today. However, before we move forward, I must introduce my beautiful queens today on the panel. We have Athena Gardner, who is our CPA and wealth coach. We have Moya, our tax professional. We have Marlo Layson, TV and film producer, and Vanessa Gopal, who has a master's in public policy and economic development. She is a business owner and a luxury travel advisor. Hi, ladies. I love all your beautiful smiles this morning on Monday. Now, listen, ladies, we actually have had a lot of people asking us this for weeks now. And of course, now we're getting down to the nitty-gritty of actually getting to the DNC. Now, the RNC has already had their go-to thing, but now we are doing that. And I think that some of these policies were kind of held back a little bit just as we're getting closer to the DNC convention that's coming up. So I want to take a look at some of her policies before we actually start diving in, because I want to get your initial reactions. Here's some of the things that she is on the economic agenda that she's doing. New home buyers subsidiaries, and she's talking about like $25,000 toward each person who is a brand new homeowner. Tax child credits, which we know is extremely important in our community and in our communities. Lower prescription drugs. Y'all, this is so big right here. I cannot believe what people like in my family are paying for prescription drugs, and a federal ban on price gouging, which we are actually seeing. And so let's look at some of the breakdowns of, kind of what Trump and Harris are separating on so that we can focus on what it is that she's doing. On the abortion side, she favors guaranteeing in federal law abortion access. She's never changed that. This is also Biden's platform as well, under her being vice president under Biden. She promises to block any potential nationwide ban and the protection for women who travel to obtain abortions and limit how law enforcement collects medical records. Now, on the red side for abortion, which is GOP, Trump brags about appointing the Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe versus Wade, which he still stands firm on, says decisions on access and cutoffs should be left to the states. And he also says it should also be left up to the states to determine whether to prosecute women for abortions or to monitor their pregnancies. Okay, so that is the abortion standpoint. So let's look at the economy, because this is where a lot of people get nitty picky and they kind of want to see what's going on. So under the Harris agenda, she focuses on expanding middle class opportunities, including mortgage assistance, tax credits for parents, and combating inflation, supports the continuation of Bidenomics, including investments in infrastructure and green energy, and opposes taxing tips and advocates for economic stability and dignity for the middle class. Let's look at Trump. He advocated for tax cut and deregulation during his presidency, including the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act. He focused on economic growth through lowering corporate tax rates and reducing government regulations, and emphasized job creation and economic nationalism, including tariffs on imports to protect American industries. So these two, let's just start with these two. Let's just slow it down a little bit, because I already know that the comments are going to be like, what about this and what about that? Well, we're not going to rush through those. We're going to just talk about those two and how they actually affect our community. Marlo, have you actually had the opportunity to look at some of these policies, or did you kind of know where she stood on this? And what are your initial thoughts on how this is going to affect our communities?
Well, I think if you ask an economist, most of these, they don't like these policies, mostly because depending on the economist that you ask, many of them lean toward corporate profits, right? So it will, it could cause inflation, this housing plan, right? If every new home buyer has $25,000 to go out and aid them in buying a home, we may see an imbalance of where we are now, right? Where there is less supply and higher demand. So I think that it depends on who you ask. But if economists don't like a financial plan or a president's economic outlook, typically it will help working class people, because typically they lean in toward, company and company profits. So it remains to be seen. Typically they don't roll out these policies until the DNC and after. That's typically how this works. I know people wanted it more because of the quick change that we experienced when Biden decided that he wasn't going to continue to run. But I think that over the next few days of the convention, the higher profile Democrats will roll out a little bit more of these policies, explain them a little bit better night by night. So I think on the surface, it looks good, but anytime you have economic policy, it depends on who you ask, right? Because wealthy people who lean toward investor side and people who make capital investments are not going to like the apparent or the appearance of the spreading of wealth, as they say, and equally testing consumer prices and saying you can't gouge. They want to make maximum profits, right? So saying price gouging will be illegal or it'll be banned, obviously people don't want to hear that because they want to be able to gouge prices. So it remains to be seen.
I think it all remains to be seen, but I want to say up front before I even move on to the other queens, here's what I believe, and y'all gonna laugh, but it's true. I believe they make all these promises and then they have really good intentions. I mean, both sides. Okay. I mean, all sides. And they have really good intentions, but then the day they get in that Oval Office, somebody walks in with this big book and says, "Hello, Mr. or Mrs. President." You know, all those promises that you promised, here's the book. Here's why you can't do them. You know, there's so many ways that they can promise things, but don't forget there is a system to our government. So Athena, do you think that the initial things that we've talked about, do you think they align with our community? And what are your initial thoughts about her stance on that?
I think the initial things that you guys have outlined do in line with things that can help our community, being able to afford housing, being able, I was reading some of the data that we have, not proposing tax, not raising taxes for people who make 400,000 or less. But I think the issue, and I'm sure that we will expound on this further on in the conversation, is I don't think there is anything specific to us that we are getting. Right now, there is the DNC happening starting today, and I was looking at the agenda, and I was seeing the times that the Black Caucus was meeting. So I wanted to actually watch that to see if we're actually going to ask for anything in specifics. And I think Kamala has also stated that she will not be doing anything that's specifically aided towards us, but the policies in general should help us. So I'm curious to see what will unfold in the next coming days. But I do think that generally these policies will be beneficial to us. But who knows, just like you said, it may not even be put into once she gets into office.
Well, it's remained to be seen. I mean, I don't think regardless of what we do, anybody's ever going to always be happy. Someone's always going to have to complain regardless of what side it is in, they're going to fuss. But Moya, I love, honey, you have set up your face like, I need to hear what your thoughts are on what you're thinking about the initial policies that we actually talked about.
So I live in California, so a lot of these things I've actually seen in place. Like, for example, for taxes, we give anybody from 0 to 5 an extra $1,000, like the California does, for their tax rebate. So when she's saying she wants to give them from 0 to 1 an extra $1,000 as well, that makes a huge difference. I see the look on these moms' faces when they're like, "What? I'm getting back what? That $3,600 tax credit that gets expanded? Oh my God, that's amazing." Now imagine if you have 2 kids, that's $7,200. 3 kids, we're talking about over $10,000. This is life-changing money that we're talking about. And we've seen it. Like, these are things that we've seen. We haven't seen the $25,000 down payment, but these other things that she mentioned, we have seen. The $35 incident cap. Who is infected by diabetes the most disproportionately? It's us. So when you can cap it at $35, oh my God, we're talking about not so much life-changing only like figuratively, but literally, because you don't have to decide now between, oh my God, what am I going to eat? Because that also affects your diabetes. And do I buy my insulin? That conversation now has been strongly minimized. So I definitely believe that those have a strong impact on us directly as Black community.
Totally agree. When I said that medications, especially in my family, after so long, their copay on the Medicaid went out, right? And it's diabetes directly. And when that runs out toward the end of the year, when it's Christmas and everybody's trying to eat and stay warm and keep their heat on, and I'm talking about Kentucky in this situation, but I too have been in California for like 15 years. that at the end of the year, the shots are like $1,000 and they barely are making it. So I think this makes a huge, huge difference. Now, Vanessa, I left you last, but not because I don't love you, but because I know you got a deep dive into this because this is kind of your wheelhouse. So I would like to hear what your initial thoughts are on the first two topics that we talked about with Kamala.
So I too live in California. I think the intention is good with the $25,000 down payment. I don't really understand how it's going to get regulated within the state. I don't understand how they're going to really regulate that policy, how they're going to get it going in 4 years. I also think that it's not that Black people can't afford to buy houses, at least in California, because I know a lot of us here pay rents 2,000, 2,500 a month. That is the normal price. I think that we need to focus on programs like there's a program called NACA, and that's NACA. Uh, if you want to look it up, if you're looking for a home buying program, it's a great program. But what they do is they look at your bank statements for the last 2 years. If you have been able to pay a certain amount of money, then you will automatically qualify for that amount in a mortgage. Additionally, they take care of your closing costs, your mortgage insurance, and your down payment. If we're really talking about helping Black people obtain home ownership, then I think we need to sort of replicate programs like this that actually work. Giving people $25,000, I think it's going to I don't think it's going to help. First of all, I think that you're going to inflate the market. You're going to cause inflation. Um, it's just basically going to cause the supply and the prices to go up. That's what I believe. If you really want to change the market, you need to allow people to be able to qualify easier for these homes. It is extremely difficult to qualify for a home. First of all, your debt, if you have any type of debt, it's working against you. If you have student loan debt, if you have debt from a credit card, even though you've been paying your bills, even though you've been paying $3,000 a month for a rent, they're telling you that, oh no, you can't qualify for this $500,000 loan, even though your mortgage would be less than the rent. So I think that's the bigger issue here. I think the regulation needs to be removed. I think we need to look at programs like NACA. I've known people who have used programs like NACA. It is truly life changing. I have a girlfriend that bought a property in San Pedro for $650,000. She was paying, almost $3,000 a month in rent. She wouldn't have been able to qualify because of her student loans, but because of their reinventing how you can apply for mortgages, it allowed her to buy the property. She held on to it for 5 years. She sold it, got a ton of equity out. She's now developing properties in Detroit. So I think when we talk about changing the system economically for Black people, it isn't just handing out $25,000 checks. So that's my take on the economy portion of it. In terms of healthcare, I agree with everything that the other queens are saying. I think that the scary thing, if you put somebody like Donald Trump in office, is he wants to overturn the Affordable Care Act. I think that would be a horrible thing. We've all seen what this nation looks like when people can't get health care. It creates a bigger problem. It creates a higher tax burden for the people who do pay taxes. And it creates actually, I think, more cost on a corporation or a hospital because they have to treat and they have to just go to the emergency room. So, that's my take on healthcare and the economy.
If you're just now joining us, you are watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as you can see, we tackle topics that are important to our community. So you don't want to miss a show. In order to always find out when we're on, all you got to do is take your little assistant, this little old Siri right here. I call her Marilyn Monroe because I just like Marilyn Monroe better. I don't know why I just do. Or Betty Boop, 1 to 2. All you got to do is type in the words Queens, Queens, to 87948, and you'll be notified when we go live. Now, listen, we also are on Spotify, and I absolutely love that. I actually went in this weekend and listened to a lot of things that we said. Yeah, I'm kind of crazy like that. I know we talk about it, but I also like to listen to us too in case I missed something. So please go on over to Spotify. type in Fly Nubian Money, subscribe, and make sure you leave us a 5-star rating because that really does help us out. Now, we're going to get back into this. Moya, I know you was point. Going back to you. I want you to tap onto what you needed to say before we move on.
Really quick, I definitely agree with what Vanessa was saying. One of the things that we have had is a $7,500 home buyer's credit for a period of time. And so what that is, it's something similar to what Vice President Harris was mentioning for the $25,000. So they do keep track of it, especially when you're going in and you don't have to pay it back. And usually they give it to you in the form of a tax credit. So that way you have access to it still. So we have done, when we say we, I mean, as a nation, as a country, something similar when we were offering down payment assistance, because as Vanessa was saying, people in California, while we're used to paying high amounts, we usually don't have access to that down payment. So when we talk about closing that racial wealth gap, that's a key factor into it.
And y'all are talking my wheelhouse because real estate is mine. I've been in real estate since 2016, and I have sold and have listings right now and helping buyers right now that are participating in these programs. I just got an email today from Los Angeles County that they have money again. And I have been teaching since 2006, and I do home buyers class with nonprofit organizations such as NACA. And if you take these classes, which is usually one Saturday out of the week, and you get educated from the very tippy top all the way to the end, they give you a certificate, and that certificate allows you to get down payment assistance. So it's not impossible. And I absolutely love, Vanessa, that your friend bought a San Pedro. That was me. I live in San Pedro. I love it. And the houses are great down there too. So, but you see what she said. What she did is she invested into that home, and now she's getting into other investments. So home ownership is something that is near and dear to my heart with these programs. But let me explain to you what is going on, why housing is so important, not just in California, because what people are not understanding is from the previous administration, as well as previous administrations, they always gave the power to the corporations. So the corporations were buying up the land. They were buying up the houses. They were renting them out. They're building whole subdivisions, y'all. I mean, big, beautiful subdivisions where they're not for sale. They're for rent and rent only. So you get to play home ownership, but you don't get the home ownership benefits. And with the things that they're proposing with this new plan is that corporations have to back up off of this. There is a shortage all across America because corporations are allowed to do what they want. And then when they get them and raise the rent so high, people can no longer afford them. That's just one of the reasons we have an issue. One of the reasons. There's many others, but with housing, I bet if right now, if you pulled up your phone and looked for a house to buy, you're going to also find whole subdivisions for just to rent. So if you want home ownership, you can do it. It's funds out there, whatever state. Okay, let's tackle some of these comments that we have. I love how we are so quick. Someone asked about NACA, and the website is right there. It's www.naca.com. I have worked with NACA as well, but be prepared to be ready to wait because they make you a responsible homeowner. They don't rush you through that program. You got to be ready. And they look at everything and help you get your credit together and everything. So don't expect to go sign up for it now and buy a home next month. It doesn't work that way. They're going to make you a responsible homeowner. Michael Ferguson says, we'll push the pricings of home higher. I don't understand what you mean by that. I need you to expound on that, please, Michael. Maybe I'm missing first part of your comment. What makes you think that the pricing of homes are going higher? I'd like to hear your second thought about that. Byron says she does need to have multiple ways to get us our money. Yes, she does. And as you can see, any of these will benefit our communities as well. G-Man says she has to walk a fine line because corporations will turn against her. It's about greed. It is about greed, but guess what? A lot of these corporations donate to both parties for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear what I said? Mark it down in your book. Okay. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. Buying the votes too. I don't know about buying votes, but okay. Dwayne says the funds are there. On the other hand, is the mindset of the individual there to become a homeowner? Consistency and determination. Got to have a plan. You are very much correct. I had to think about that for a second, Michael. I'm sorry. Mary Jo says NACA is good. We were able to get a new mortgage, a 30-year mortgage 15 years ago at 2% interest rate. I'm so proud that you all are talking about all of this because this does help our community. So let's go ahead and move on because this is a big topic. Okay, guys, it's a big topic. We're not going to be able to cover every single thing today. So we're trying to get you the most important key things that we know she has shown us right now. But don't forget, the DNC is this week, and we'll want to make sure that we tune in and listen to the other things that she is going to stand on her platform. So let's pull up a couple of other situations that they differ on and what her platform in. But let's look at this before we move on, because this directs everything that we're talking about. Poverty rates. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the poverty rate in 2022, 19.5% Black Americans and 8.1% for white Americans. Can you see? That is double, y'all. That is double. But there are resources out there. But what are they going to do to help us to lift ourselves up as well? A lot of the platforms thing that she's talking about says that that's what they're going to do for us. But what else are they going to talk to us about for our communities? Like what type of funds, what type of support are they going to give us for education? That is a big one. That is one that we definitely need to talk about because our kids are suffering. So 81% of all voters believe policies that make college, technical schools, and other post-high school trainings more affordable for all who wanted would help people like them. This also includes what's going to happen, y'all, if they're going to ask about school loans. What are we going to do about that? Athena, what are your thoughts on the education? What do you think that they should do to help turn about our education? Because let's be very clear. Kamala is saying they want more funding for the schools. The other side are trying to make privatization of schools a thing. And if that happens, our public schools will suffer greatly. What are your thoughts on the education?
When it comes to education, I just want them to at least do what they were trying to do with Biden's run, which at least honor the student loans. I know they've been having pushback with the Supreme Court, but I think the student loan issue especially would be helpful because, to what you guys were saying, a lot of people cannot qualify a lot for housing because of the amount of debt of student loans. I know people who have like 100,000 student loan, 120,000 student loans, right? So when it comes to that debt to income ratio that is often used to see how much house you can qualify for, people are being priced out of looking at housing, especially in states like Florida, like where I live, are being pushed out because they cannot afford or qualify. Even if they can afford the payment, they cannot qualify for that home. When it comes to education in general, I do think that more investment needs to be made when it comes to public education. We can't just privatize the whole education system, right? It's not going to be helpful for people who need general education as well. And I do think that we need to look at, as far as college and trade school and technical skills, some more investments from the government in that area. I believe if we have money to fund wars, we most certainly have money on a federal level to invest in the education of America. I know there's an agenda to not educate the American population because an educated population makes different types of decisions, right? And can think for themselves and push back. But I think it's very important that we make these investments.
I agree, because let's face it, education, let's look at this slide. Educational attainment. The National Center for Education Statistics reports that in 2021, 25% of Black adults aged 25 to 29 had a bachelor's degree or higher, and 45% of white adults in the same age group. Once again, guys, that's a pretty big disparaging number there. But Harris focuses on affordable tuition, and that could impact some of these statistics. This dates back so long, guys, about education. When it already started back in Reagan's era and even beyond, when he decided to privatize schools and all the things that were going on with that. But we continue to see that this is a struggle when people go to school, get their education, get a degree, in some cases master's degree, and then they get out and they can't even work the job that they went to school for. Vanessa, what are your thoughts on this? You do a lot of thought into economics and things of that matter. So what are your thoughts on the educational aspect of what needs to be done for our community? And do you think Harris can deliver this?
Y'all about to be mad at me for this response, but I agree with privatizing education. And hear me out when I say that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. How many times have we seen, are we going to watch our public school systems in our communities fail? I mean, I'm a product of a public school, and we had like a program, we had a lot of funding, and that created kind of like a smaller classes. It gave us laptops in an era, but it was very different than the rest of the classes. And you saw our graduation rates were higher. But my belief is that we spend about, on average, $12,000 to $14,000 per pupil. I believe in a pod system. I believe that if you gave that money in the form of a voucher and you had 7 to 10 students, you hired a teacher for that. You had maximum 1 to 10 ratio, and our students were taught history, our history. Our students were taught financial literacy. Our students were taught things that are important for the well-being of them, as opposed to just throwing them in a public school system that watches them fail time and time again. We know that kids get passed to next grade levels without learning how to read and how to write. Well, teachers are dealing with, classrooms that have 30 kids in it. Yet we're paying all this tax money. So just imagine if you're taking $14,000 and you have, 10 kids, and you're able to pay this teacher $60,000. Now in California, it may be a little bit more, but I mean, other states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Minnesota, the rest of the Midwest, and a lot of the other areas, besides California and New York, where the salary would be higher, but you could afford to pay a teacher. You could rent, a cheap classroom. You would only have to do instruction for about 4 hours of the day. They could go participate in, YMCA programs or Boys and Girls Clubs. I strongly am against just giving more money to public schools. They have, failed, especially in the inner city communities. Even in the suburban, yeah, I now live in the suburbs, we fund our public schools. So a lot of the parents have money to go in and give the school additional money. So our kids get art programs, our kids get tutoring. But when inner cities don't have those type of resources. So I just feel like the money is not being spent, to the best of its ability. I believe that we need to reduce class sizes. We need to get teachers that care about the things that we need in our community, which is financial literacy, history, things that will help us. So that's my take on it. I'm not for just throwing more money at the public school system. For what? For what?
I think it's broken, and it's broken from the top. Especially, you can always throw a big budget at it, and then you say, states, here's what you do with that funds. But a lot of the times I feel like it's mismanaged. But that's part of the reason, guys, that we can't just vote for presidents. We have to vote for the local area people. I'm talking about your jailer, your tax collector, your school librarian. You need to be really checking who's running for these, because you'd be very surprised who's running for these and what their second agenda is. So you need to be very careful about who you're voting for. It's not just a presidential thing. Once again, I'm going to toss this to you, Moya, because you like me. I got one of these faces that just tell you everything I'm thinking, whether I'm talking or not. So I want to hear what you think about the educational aspect.
Okay, yeah. So, Miss Lala, I didn't know that school librarians also are on. They run for city council. I didn't know that.
Sometimes in these smaller communities. Yes.
That's true. So I do, in my case, I do disagree with Vanessa because a couple things. So for California, they do it based upon attendance. That's how they're paid for their kids, for their students to go to school. Many other states, they do it based upon your zip code and your geographic region. That's how they fund their schools. So when she's saying that in our community or in her community, what they do is they have a parent section that supplements what those children get. So that's why they get more. But if you take that money out, so let's say each student is worth $6,500 to the school for what they get in terms of that student going there, then you take that money out, and then what and who's left? So if we're really talking about, so you got to discern, are you talking about your kid or are you talking about helping the community? Because if you're talking about helping the community and lowering poverty, by you taking your $6,500 out, everybody taking their $6,500 out, meaning they're taking their kids out, and the students that are left are kids who are in foster care, kids whose parents are not well aware of what options they have to them. What do we do with those students? So those students are just left there, but my kid's out? I agree with what MC Fact was saying. Then if you have it, then you need to go ahead and put your kid into a private school. But what they're doing is they're saying, hey, Republicans and conservatives, and they're saying, I don't want to pay my money. I want to use the tax dollars, and I want to use that fund. I want to pull it out, and I want to put my 6,500 wherever I want to put it. And that's when you leave those students there and they suffer. We've seen that plan before. We've done that before, where you have these charter schools that come in, they take these funds, they use them how they want to use them. Your kids are still educated, maybe not, but at least with a public school, you can hold someone accountable to say what's happening. How come my student isn't learning? And then you have different options for them. So I think that it's a larger fact of, let me just pull my funds out and put my funds wherever I want to put my funds. I think we leave those other kids there to perish. And then we're still here having a conversation about our poverty rate is double the amount of whites.
Can I just respond to that really quick? So the average, the average pupil receives $15,633. I'm not advocating for I'm not advocating to leave kids. What I'm advocating to do is that each pupil is receiving $15,000. So I'm just going to say you take 10 people, that's $150,000. You hire a private teacher. I'm advocating that the public schools start operating more like a private market so that the students can receive better education. But even different, a pod program. So it's not a charter school. I feel like charter schools are a little bit different. If you take the funding of 10 children and you hire a teacher, that is $150,000. That money will be better spent. Those kids will be better educated than the current system that we have. Our kids are failing. I mean, I went to a school that had metal detectors.
If you pull out the 10, what happens to the other 20 in the class? If you pull out that 100,000,
well, I'm saying that you're not leaving anyone. I'm saying that you're recreating the system. So 10 kids here, 10 kids there, so that it becomes like a 10-to-1 ratio across the board.
But right now, to pay teachers around $50,000 to $60,000. How can we possibly pull?
Yeah, some teachers don't even get paid that. Some teachers are getting paid $20,000, $30,000 in Louisiana, Mississippi, Kansas. So if you're able, even if you're able to pay teachers the upper 60, 70,000, it still creates a better formula than what we've been doing for the last 20 years, watching our kids fail. I mean, that's my opinion.
I agree. We do need another formula, but I think it has to be way more inclusive.
And with that, I want to remind you who you're watching. You are watching Fly Nubian Money, and you see we got solutions out here. Now, what I love about our program is we can have these talks, and we might be able to come up with a solution together. When you have two different views, or maybe you find out you have more things in common than you have in different. So listen up. You might have comments too. I want to hear more of these chats. I want to see more of you commenting. I am loving the comments today. I appreciate you being here. We all do. So we want to hear what your views are. But right now you're watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please don't miss a show because it's just way too important. And you know you love us. Yes, you do. So go ahead and type the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. And listen, if you want to be a guest on the show, It's really easy. All you have to do is to email us, and you can do that at info@realvirtual.net. And I'm going to spell that for you. Don't be shy. We want you on here. Come on. info@reelvirtual.net. We would love to have you. I want to bring up some of the comments that we have because this is an all-inclusive show. We like to talk with you. G-Man says, I would like to see a push to put trade and tech schools back in urban communities like the late 70s and 80s. I actually agree with that because guess what? If your AC or your heat go out, who you gonna call? That's good money. These plumbers and these AC people are making good money, right? There is money in trade. So you don't necessarily have to push for a four-year college. McFack, we love you. We know you always come in. Thank you for always being a part of this show. We love that you come in and have conversations with us too. Bruce Jones says, I'm riding through a Black poverty area. Education and buying a house ain't on their minds. No, it isn't when you're trying to eat every day. But she also addresses giving tax credits to the middle class. And let's talk about that next. Marlo, do you think that what type of credits do you think should be offered to people of a certain tax bracket? We always say that the middle class is getting smaller and smaller, and it's more of a have and have not situation. So what do you think, and how do you think that Harris could address this issue and actually get the money into the people's hands that really need it?
I'm going to go back to 2016. There was a candidate named Andrew Yang who did not get much traction, but he had really great ideas. One of which, if he were elected or if he were chosen for somebody's cabinet, would have helped the Hollywood actors with this AI stuff because he was advocating for us to be able to own our name, image, and likeness. One of the things that Andrew Yang suggested, well, two things. One was a UBI. I know that they've done universal basic income programs. I know they had one in Sacramento. They had one here in Shreveport where I live. They were instituted by local mayors who raised private funding. This is actually an MLK idea. This is probably the idea that made them say he has got to go, where people would get a universal basic income credit, similar to what people get in Alaska who get money back from oil rights. And so I think a universal basic income would be a great thing for working families based off of the fact that all of these tech companies, this is where the money would come from because we got to pay for a tax cut, right? It would be based on all of these internet companies that use our data to make more money, right? So you're talking about Amazon with our watching, our shopping, Hulu, Facebook, Instagram, all of them make money off of us and we don't get anything in return. And for those of us who are business people or who run people's businesses through social media like I do, we have to pay the cost to get that visibility that we want, right? Like if you in the free show of Facebook, you're not really in the show, right? Unless you got in on the viral success before they wanted us all to pay for it. So I think that looking at universal basic income through some type of tech tax. Yes, I'm talking to y'all with all the money who don't pay any taxes in this tech space. I am talking to you. Y'all got to give something back to the people. An education credit would be better for working class families, families with children. I think that giving parents a choice of what they want to do with their child's education is good. But I know because I worked in a public school system, every parent is not engaged. So both Moya and Vanessa have very good points. We need to find a way to bridge the two, right? The very super hyper engaged parent that's willing to give more and invest more in their child's education because they know what's coming on the backside, and the parent who is living life or surviving and they are trying to figure it out, or maybe they don't look like they give a damn at all, right? But those children still shouldn't be left behind. So definitely some type of education credit. I will say the problem with public school is policy, and it is testing. Please, everybody go look up how much money school districts spend on testing. Testing costs billions of dollars to school districts across the country. Hundreds of millions of dollars in your state are being paid to testing companies so they could come back and tell teachers the data that our teachers knew because they knew us and because they tested us and because they engaged us in class and they weren't teaching us how to bubble in the correct answer in 60 minutes or less, right? So I think that looking at standardized testing, challenging school boards as to why this standardized testing exists and why it is needed is crucially important. And we got to get that out of the public school sector, right? They want to say that charter schools, because they don't want Vanessa's great idea of pulling it out and letting parents create these pods. They want the idea of the Walton family owning so many charter schools and educating our children that Frederick Douglass was all about slavery. Like, no, the charter school is definitely not the answer, right? Because there is nothing. There's nothing there with charter schools, y'all. Sorry, I don't like them. I'm not going to be a proponent of them. Not on this stage, not on any. And healthcare credits, of course. Healthcare credits are definitely needed for because healthcare is so expensive, whether you're going to the doctor or just maintaining your health. Healthy people should get, I think health should be incentivized in this country instead of having a sick care system that we currently have.
Agree. The wellness programs would do us a lot of good just in this year, y'all. And we're in August. I have four female friends, 2 with breast cancer, 1 with cervical cancer, and then 1 that had cancer going to a lymph node. And early detection could have helped them, but just going to the doctor was hard to even do. Even with what they had, it was so high, they just couldn't do that. So a lot of this, I believe, would be helped if we had wellness programs. Let's go into another topic, ladies, and it's going to be a woo-woo because this one always is a very sensitive. So let's keep it clean. Comments. Let's talk about immigration. So let's look what Harris says and what the previous administration, and Trump is also running again, of course, we know what the difference is. So immigration says bipartisan Senate compromise that would have included tougher asylum standards and hiring more border agents, immigration judges, and asylum officers was poised to clear Congress before Trump came out in opposition to it. Now, let's be very clear on what she's talking about. She has been labeled by the red side as the immigration czar, which is a complete myth. So I urge you to please do your research on that. Let's look underneath what Trump's ideas for immigration is. Bring back policies he put in place during his first term, like the Remain in Mexico program and Title 42, which placed curbs on migrants on public health grounds. And then also expand the travel ban that originally targeted citizens from 7 Muslim majority countries, and seek to end birthright citizenship for people born in the U.S. whose parents are both in the country illegally. Now, I have issues with his policies, and it's only because he's also gone against his own policies that he's putting in. I mean, just look at his wife. And then she also, both wives. And then also he allowed her parents to come in as well. So I feel like there's a contradiction there. But I do want to hear from you, Athena, on this. Do you believe that this is still a hot topic, and how is it something that we can get control on, but still allow us to be the great American melting pot? And the reason I'm asking you this, Athena, is because I too, I bounce between Florida, California, Portugal. I'm everywhere. I've been everywhere, man. But I do know that Florida is a big state when it comes to immigration, especially during Miami, and you live there. So what are your thoughts on the immigration policies of Harris versus Trump?
Well, as someone who has benefited from the American immigration policy, because I am an immigrant, I got my citizenship in 2012. So I do feel passionate about this topic. Now, I am very much pro in support of current immigration policies such as H-1B visa, having students come over and learn and get sponsored by companies, especially for people to work in traditions and professions that are very, very, very much needed That's how my father came over here. He was a geologist. Not a lot of people do geology. And he was able to bring us and his family. And then we went through the proper, get the visa, then the green card, then the citizenship, right? What I'm not in support of is just busing a group of people, dropping them off in New York or California or wherever, and bankrolling $10,000 checks and stuff like that. That was not my journey. And it makes me question, why are we doing that? Why are we doing that as far as getting labor in America, right? Because I do think part of the issue is that a lot of people who do those jobs are needed and they're doing it for a lower wage, right? So I think it goes back to part of the issue with education as well. How can we educate American workforce and provide trades and skills that are needed so there's not this push to get cheap labor elsewhere or skilled labor elsewhere? Because it's usually either the top end or the lower end where they're getting the immigrants for. In the middle, there's no need, right? So I think that is something that we need to do and address. And I think we do need to have tighter border security. But I'm very much so not in support of let's get in a bus of people from elsewhere and giving them all these government stipends when our own people don't get that.
Agree. I literally watched California bounce people back and forth, especially the homeless. And speaking of San Pedro, Vanessa, one of the dropping points was San Pedro. People from the LA County directly, LA City proper, would actually put homeless in cars and bring them down to San Pedro and drop them off because they didn't want to deal with them in the city. So we actually have states dealing with it as well as cities dealing with it too, because it can be overwhelming. Okay, boy, this time is just going so fast. I'm trying to get it together and then also address the important things. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that we need to address in this situation about what's going on with Kamala and what her policies are. I do want to address a couple of our comments, but first, you're watching Fly Nubian Money. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. And if you don't want to miss a show, all you have to do is text the word Queens to 87948, and you will be notified every time we go live. Also, if you want to get your money right and your money tight, because that's what we do. We're called Fly Nubian Money. We have a lot of resources to help you on our website. We have classes and courses and handouts and all sorts of information to help you get your financial house in order. And you can go to flynubianmoney.com and check us out there. Ladies, it is kind of winding down. I know we haven't talked about healthcare. We haven't talked about the war. We haven't talked about NATO and Ukraine. But I know that you ladies have already looked into a lot of these things. So before we move on and we get our final thoughts and your comments on what you think is important to you in our Black communities, as well as where we can find you, I would want to urge everyone who is watching us to please don't just believe what you hear. Please make sure that you go and do your own research on what it is that's important to you and how you can implement that into your voting power. Because let's face it, if you don't vote, you're still voting. One of the two. That's the truth of the matter. And I also want to say that I'm loving the comments, so keep them coming. All right. Phew. Let's just take a deep breath, because I get so excited about this topic because I do care about my country and I'm worried about my country, right? I'm worried about so much division about us. Let's talk about a rapid answer. Let's keep it kind of short. What do you think can be done for the health care of our communities to help them get healthier, other than what we've talked about, and what we can do in our individual communities to help? So let's start with you, Moya. Can't hear you.
I was just reading all the comments. The comments were coming through. So when it comes to healthcare and what needs to be done next, I think it's really important that we also just look at what the opposition doesn't want to do with healthcare, like the fact that they want to repeal the Affordable Care Act. I think that those are things that we have to really, really be looking at.
Well, one of them I want to make sure is our elderly are taken care of any kind of way with their medicines, because I am seeing that direct thing. I mean, if you're going to be able to help them with the Medicare, at least make sure that they can get the medication and don't cut them off at the end of the year. So, it's something to me. I want to make sure that we take care of our elderly and those who definitely need the medication, who can't afford it. That's just my thought. Vanessa, what are your thoughts on that, please?
My thoughts are that we definitely need healthcare. Healthcare should be, it should be, everybody should have a right to healthcare. Drugs should be affordable. It seems like basic human dignity and common sense. And then also, we also need to teach everyone preventative measures of how to take care of themselves, so that the chances of developing diseases that are preventable, high blood pressure, diabetes, can greatly diminish, so that our people aren't relying on drugs to keep them alive. So that involves healthy food, exercise. I think that's a big part of it. Preventative care is easier than when you actually get sick. It's way cheaper. So those are my two takes on it. I think it's a two-part.
My computer is tripping. Gremlin, stay away, stay away. I'm working hard, y'all, on this side. Okay, Moya, what are your thoughts on this as well? I just asked you, didn't I?
I would love to go again, but I only know we have 6 minutes.
I know. Tina, I'm going to ask you about the healthcare part.
Listen, healthcare is very important in this country, because if you cannot afford healthcare, all of that cost ends up going back to as a burden as a taxpayers. Also, healthcare debt is also a big contributor to another reason to why people can't afford homes, because they maybe gotten sick, couldn't afford it, went to the hospital, got sick, and now they have this huge healthcare bill that they cannot afford to pay. So I think that we need to look at, whether it's Trump or Harris, what are they specifically trying to do to help us combat this problem? We are a Western nation. We are a Western civilization. The fact that we have these issues in healthcare, or don't have a basic standard for healthcare that everyone can afford, is a big problem. I do think that, like I said previously, if we have money for war, we have money for healthcare. Like, for wars that we are not even directly in, we have money for healthcare.
That is something that we did not talk about today, y'all. And a lot of people are saying that, we do need to talk about this. So I'm sure there's going to be a part 2. Marlo, I'm going to go straight to you, since I'm on the struggle bus and I want to keep talking, but keep going.
Yeah, I think everyone's already said it. Healthcare is a healthy nation is a prosperous nation, right? If people are losing their homes because they get sick, because their health insurance sucks, if people get sick and all of a sudden their lifestyle has to take a huge turn because Pharma Bro is allowed to charge $10,000 for an insulin shot, or whatever these absorbent costs are that people have decided, oh, what's your life worth to you? Let me charge and just see how much people are willing to pay to stay alive. I think that is the ugliest part of American culture, is the way that the healthcare system has been run into the ground by corporations. I think we got to get corporations out of hospitals. There are a lot of hospitals that are shutting down in small communities, and it is because corporate entities are coming in and deciding that, oh, there's another hospital that is 80 miles from you, and it's more advantageous for our shareholders for us to sell this hospital or lease it to a doctor conglomerate for absorbent amounts of cost. There are doctors who are paying huge rents for medical buildings, and it is costing people their lives, right? Because you have a community clinic today, they can't afford to run tomorrow, they got to shut down. Now your nearest option is a drive away, and maybe you don't have transportation that could take you to the nearest hospital that is requiring a decent car on the highway. So I think that this healthcare situation has to be worked out. The fact that the Trump and a future Trump administration is still talking about repealing the ACA because of personal feelings for Barack Obama, even though as we are so many years away from the passage of the ACA, and it's been getting better and it's been getting improvements, including the recent drop in prescription health costs or prescription drug costs, is really, it says a lot more about how people view American people's lives than it says about anything else to me. But definitely getting healthcare costs capped is very important. We have to figure out a way to deal with that, because if not, this nation is not going to be moving forward very long.
Valid points. I think Lala may have dropped some technical issues, but I agree. We need healthcare. I think that's the overall consensus. There we go.
Now she's back from outer space. Lala, are you back? Yes, girl. Okay, so healthcare. We're talking about war right now. So I want some quick thoughts from you, Queens. What do you guys think about United States current policy on war, and what would you like to see coming from these candidates? Let's start with you, Moya.
I know that the protests are planned for the DNC. They are there in Chicago. They're ready to protest. I do believe it's something very important to talk about, but I feel like the pressure is only on one side. I feel like they're only pressuring the Democrats to do something about this war, but they're not holding Trump and the Republicans' feet to the fire about the war. And I feel like it's just because they feel like they can bully the Democrats, and they know the Republicans don't care or not going to listen about their thoughts. So I just feel like I wish it was more pressure. If we're going to pressure America to do something, pressure all of America, not just one side.
I agree, Moya, because I do think, to your credit, that they do not care. They know Trump going to do what he want to do anyway. So why even bother? Marlo, how do you feel about our current state in America on war, and what would you like for us to see coming out of this?
I think that our government has tethered itself to Israel so tightly over the past year since the end of World War II that it's really going to be difficult for any sitting government official to have a policy that condemns Israel and forces them to find a better way forward. Trump can talk all the madness he wants, but I get emails from Mike Johnson every day talking about Israel. Israel's our friend. It's shameful, and Israel and Palestinian protesters and Israel, right? So that's his guy, right? That's his leader on the House side if he were to be elected again. And those people are very, very pro-Israel. There's even a measure in the state of Louisiana to clamp down on protests on college campuses and start arresting people. This is Louisiana. Honey, we don't have a huge Palestinian support group, so y'all don't have to put those kids in jail. Like, you can let them practice peaceful protest. But it is the problematic part is how tightly we've gotten this symbiotic relationship with Israel, and they've always not been able to do any wrong over the years, and they've constantly been pushing, and here we are with this deplorable behavior from Netanyahu. And I'm very interested to see how we're going to get out of it, because we have made such a point to be their best friend through thick and thin. So are the besties going to break up? I don't know, girl.
Listen, Vanessa, do you think that United States is afraid to take a certain stance on the war with Israel because of the Jewish people in America?
I don't know what it is, but I agree with everything Marlo said. Like, it's just, I don't understand it. Additionally, I'm extremely annoyed. We're sending billions of dollars over there. They get free college. Meanwhile, we're out here paying thousands of dollars every month, or we're in student.
Listen, the gremlins are chirping today, honey. Okay, Lola, I'm gonna swing back to you, girl.
Man, I'm telling you,
Israel. Don't talk about Israel. They get you out the chat, honey.
Are we being doxxed? Are we being doxxed?
I know.
You said
me off quick. I was like,
they kicked him off. This is crazy. Well, y'all know that if you talk about this stuff on X, they do kind of shut you down on these comments. So yeah. So Vanessa, will you go ahead and please finish your thoughts? And thank you, Athena.
I mean, we can't even have an opinion. But yeah, I think it's not a good relationship. I think that when we've been in a relationship, when we give money, billions of dollars to a country, and we ask them to behave differently, or hey, you got to change up the way that you're doing things, and they basically give us the middle finger and say, no, we're going to keep doing what we're doing, and we're still going to keep collecting your money. I think that you know there's a bigger issue there. So, those billions of dollars can go to American children. They can go to American students. They could go to all the issues that we've been talking about. It is I mean, where this war, if that's what you want to call it, is going. I mean, it's sickening. So if we can't control the people that we give money to, or if they won't even listen to our advice, then why are we still in this relationship with them? I could never give billions to a business partner, and I ask them to do something and they give me the middle finger and the relationship continues. It would be done
It's like
immediately.
a toxic ex.
Yep.
Keep
Yeah,
going back to.
yeah. Honey, I'm watching House of Dragons right now, and it all seems to be related to me. That's supposed to be a fantasy story, but somebody give me a dragon because I think I'm gonna have to go do some fires on some high towers because this is just ridiculous. I mean, I am definitely a human person. We all are. We don't like war. We don't like it. We don't like to see the things that we see. But at some point, we have to address the fact that the people of our own country are not being served by our country. You want our votes. You tell us you want to all give me $5 and I will work for you. When I can tell you right now that I'm actually fighting the case in Mississippi where Mississippi is not doing its job and the congressman is not calling me back. And so if you want my votes and you're not, you want them so bad, you need to listen to the wants of the people. The people. You represent the people. So if you're not listening, guess what, baby? You got to go. And I'm at the point right now where I feel like all of them need to go. No more career politicians. No more career politicians. You need term limits, baby. And I do mean Supreme Court, President, Congress, you name it. They all need it, including in our states, because you can't get in there and just ride the wave of the money that whoever is throwing at you for their vote and not listen to the people. And I hope I said that very clearly because I will shout that from the mountaintops of what we're doing. Because if you're not serving us, you surely are not getting my vote. And I'm not one who votes right down the straight line either. And I know I'm not the only one. If I feel you're the one who's going to be the right candidate, I could care less if you are red or blue. Now, there is a difference between each one of those. There seems to be separation even within those parties. But this is why I always say, please make sure you know who you're voting for. Don't just go off of what someone told you to do, right? So let's address a couple of the comments before we move on. Ladies, this is hot. I know we're going over, but I think everyone is very happy that we're even discussing this, right? So you see what happens when us ladies get together and show what we got. I believe we're a powerful people and we need to put the power in the right place. Rocket Man, Rocky Matrix says, cut off all foreign aid. What would that look like, Rocky? What would that look like? I want to know what that sounds like to you. Don't just throw out things like that and don't give me a solution. I'm always going to call you on it. What's the solution, my friend? McFax says there's no war during Trump administration. Fact. But the show was a whole lot of other stuff. And I don't know about y'all, but I don't necessarily need to know what my first lady looks like naked. Oh, I digress. BJ, the lawyer, says, Noam Chomsky stated the same thing. U.S. and Israel have had a long working relationship. U.S. benefits from working with Israel by having a foothold in the Middle East. I think you see all of us going like this. Okay. Byron Reader said money is power. Yes, my brother, money is power. And that's why you're watching Fly Nubian Money. And I'm going to need y'all to go on over to that website, flynubianmoney.com, and go get those resources that we have for you. Don't say that you don't know what to do when we have something for you. Go on over there and get yourself together in the financial house. Brandon Dumas says Democrats are the party that oppose war, not Republicans. speak facts. The military-industrial complex runs our politicians like AirPack. Maybe, maybe not. When it comes down to it, who's giving the most money to what side is what I want to know, and what power will be given with that as well. Gizmo Duck seems to think, ladies, that we're wasting our time, that we're not talking about real issues. Now, I don't know what's real to you. We're not living in fantasy land with unicorns. I do want dragons, but all of this is important to our community, and I think our ladies are smiling and agreeing me with that. Somebody in this broadcast is not a woman. We ain't going there because we don't do that here. Back up off us. We got this. Common sense is not common, what someone said. And Quicken Dude 09 says Gaza, Afghanistan, Ukraine, Yemen, Iran, all have gotten worse under Biden. All right, that you once again, I'm calling you out. Tell me how. Because I see a lot of them getting the money and a lot of our own communities not getting them. All right, ladies, we have really tackled a lot of that. And guess what? Our president doesn't run those countries. And I can tell you by traveling internationally, the other countries have their own problems. All right, they got their own problems. So you can't blame our administration on other people's administrations as well. So, boy, don't y'all feel like y'all got a lot off of y'all chest today? I do. I feel like at least we address some things that people have been asking us to address. But thing is, you can't address things that weren't put out for us to even research at the time. Now we've had the opportunity to address some of the things that have been put out. So Trump versus Harris, this is our policy face-off. So what is it for us? Because we do have a lot to untackle, but I also believe that you're not going to be able to solve everything in a 4-year term, especially when you jump from one side to the other. Somebody's undoing what somebody did before. So how do we get ahead? All right. So Adrian Smith says, close the border, low tax cuts, rebuild the economy, mass deportation, build that wall. That's what you want to see. I don't believe in the wall. Sorry. BJ, only person in mainstream media I heard mention reparations was Ann Coulter. She said the FBA deserve reparations. We have been talking about reparations for so many years that I feel like it's such an off-topic thing, but let's wind it down, ladies. After all the gremlins decided to come in and fight us, we still got in a good conversation. So, ladies, I want to hear your final thoughts. What do you think we need to do now to move forward and to demand these things for whoever gets into the White House? I'll start with you, Moya. And please tell us where we can find you too before we go.
Okay, yes. So I think it's important when we talk about demanded from whoever, there's only one person that's going to ever hear our demands, and that's going to be Vice President Kamala Harris. Donald Trump has already went in there, and he's already said who he's going to be on day one with his belief of a dictator. You guys, they have training videos for Project 2025. I know we haven't talked about that, but they are ready to go. So there's only one group that's a viable group. It does not say Black agenda on the top of her policies, but these policies have a true benefit for what they can do in our community. And so my name is Moya. I have a bit.ly link there. I have nails. You can get them free just because you guys are Black Nubian Queen viewers. You can get them free. You just have to pay for shipping and handling. So that's mine.
Queen, I need to know where to get that necklace. Oh my God, I'm over here just drooling off of that necklace because I love it so much. She came with it. What is your final thoughts and where can we find you, Queen?
Listen, I know we talked a lot today, but remember, y'all, this is Scamerica. Okay, so we're just putting our wish list and hoping for the best, honey. But I hope that I hope that this episode provided a lot of clarity for everyone on where either party stood on main issues. I hope that you guys enjoyed the perspectives of the different queens. I do think that for me, especially in this election, I'm looking at immigration, I'm looking at healthcare, I'm looking at student loan reform, and I'm looking at what they're thinking about doing with this war, honey, because those are the issues that affect me. If you like me, you like my commentary, you just like me in general, you can find me at wewealthwomen.com, at wewealthwomen on all social media platforms, and listen to my podcast at the We Wealth Women podcast.
Awesome stuff, Athena. That is our goddess right there. We love her and her comments. She keeps us laughing all the time. And she always gives us new words that we need to be putting on t-shirts.
Scam America and Ghetto Rachi t-shirts coming soon.
Told you, another winner. Marlo, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
So regardless of what any president says that they will do, they plan to do, they intend to do, they cannot do it without that bicameral government, y'all. Do not forget about the people that are running for Congress in your state. Their policies are the most important policies on the ballot because those are the lawmakers. Look at your school board, look at your city council, look at your state government. I'm going to say this every week from now until November the 5th. If you guys are not doing anything else, pay attention to everything that is beneath the presidential race on the ballot for November 5th. Because if you want to support Kamala Harris, you can't support her without getting the right people in Congress. If you don't want to support Kamala Harris, you can't do that without getting the right people in Congress. So I'm going to always push Congress. If you want to know more about me, you can find me on the internet. I create news, informational, and documentary content under my name, Marlo Layson. Or you can find me on Instagram. I am Olra Marlo. That is my first name backward forward with a little underscore. And those are the places that you can find me.
Love it. And I love what you do for the communities as well, Marlo. All right, what are your final thoughts and where can we find you?
Woo. Well, thank you all, the queens, for this lovely conversation. I loved it. And we definitely need a part two, queens. But my final thoughts are, we have to show up for our local governments. We have to vote for our Senate, for our Congress. Otherwise, I mean, you can have a president in there. If they don't have a Senate or a Congress, they're pretty much it's pointless, really. So let's not just show up at the presidential votes. Let's show up for our local elections. And I always think that that is the most important thing that we can do. Look at who's sitting on your school board. Look at your taxes. Be concerned about, you, so that you can understand how the people that you put in office will help you. And do your research. You can find me at Winter Remodeling Inc. That's my general contracting company. And if you like to travel a lot, please look me up on Instagram, Vigo Paul. I am a luxury travel advisor, and I like to share my love for travel with everyone.
Love that. And I love to travel as well because I am the international real estate agent and I specialize in Portugal as well. So get out your box, y'all. Get out your box. Here's my final thoughts. Y'all, don't let them tear us down. We may disagree on some things, but it doesn't mean that we have to take the humanity out of being human. I'm always going to advocate for love. I'm always going to advocate for unity. If that sounds woo-woo, don't care. Still going to stand on that platform. So before you open your mouth, you need to think if you're going to hurt someone, you need to keep it closed. So if you can't help, don't harm. And you can find me at bit.ly/Laura Key Info. I have a lot of great information there about home buying and also buying in Portugal and also some other things educating you about real estate. Because guess what, guys? Buy land, they're not making anymore. And that's how you can get your foot in the door with generational wealth. We'd like to take this time to say thank you. We absolutely love that you're here. We don't take you for granted. Armando, I don't know if you heard us last time, but we appreciate you being here all the time as well. You're always one who talks to us a lot, and we love that you come and support us. Everybody feels like this is a good show. Some felt like we were wasting time. I don't. We finally addressed some questions that people had, although we couldn't address them all. But if you stay tuned and you make sure that you text the word Queens, QUEENS, to 87948. You'll never miss a show, okay? And then make sure that if you have missed something and you only came in late on this one, go back and watch the replay, or make sure you subscribe to us on Spotify, Fly Nubian Money over there as well. Whew! I feel like I got a whole lot off of my shoulder today, but guess what? My black is beautiful, and so is everybody else on this panel, and so is yours too. We'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, guys. We love you. Peace out.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I want to welcome everybody to Chapter 2 of How to Be an Adult in Relationships. You can get Chapter 1, our discussion on Chapter 1, in the show notes. And I want to get started here because I'm so frustrated. I just started a live a few minutes ago, and for some reason, there was just some audio mess up. But anyway, here we go. This is the real deal here. We are talking about how to be an adult in relationships, and this is 5 keys to mindful loving. So this is for everybody that wants to know, how do I behave when I'm in a relationship with a person? How do I behave when we have conflict and I want to be able to look at this conflict and deal with it in a way that's healthy and that's mature and not be childish? So if you're interested in that, if you feel that you're already an adult in relationships, let's check and see if that's true. You never know if it's true. So maybe you also feel as if you can improve how your relationships operate. Maybe you're thinking, I've noticed these patterns that's happening in my dating life, and I wonder if I am carrying some of the issues I had when I was younger into my current relationship. And I don't know how any of us can't do that. So today we're going to talk about Chapter 2. I do recommend that you go back. If you haven't already read the book for Chapter 1, I do recommend that you go back and take a look at some of the videos of Chapter 1 that we talked about. It goes through all of the 5 keys to mindful loving. What are the 5 keys to mindful loving? I'm not even going to go into that right now, but if you're interested in that, you can definitely find that in the show notes. Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk about Chapter 2. And Chapter 2 is about love and less. That's the title of Chapter 2. So this is interesting as a title for a chapter. And it begins with a quote from Martin Buber. And I did look up who this author was of this quote, and he was a philosophist. And he talked about relationships in a lot of his works. His name is Martin Buber. And this is what he says: a person wishes to be confirmed in his being by another person. Secretly and bashfully, he watches for a yes, which allows him to be, which can come to him only from one human person to another. It is from one human being to another that the heavenly bread of self-being is passed. That's flowery for the fact that you need another person for validation. How do you know who and what you are, if you're crazy or not, if you don't have another person to be a sounding board? I think that's what Martin is talking about here. It is normal for people to seek validation in another person. And you are nothing. You are nothing if you are in isolation. You are nothing if you remove yourself and avoid human contact, right? How you know who and what you are is through contact with another person. And so we'll talk about that today. So I am on page 55. This is Chapter 2. It's working now. All right. I am on page 55 of Chapter 2. And it starts with, we are born with the capacity to feel the whole panoply of human emotions. But that capacity requires activation before we can use it fully. So we were born with the capacity to feel an entire range of human emotions. And this is everybody. I really do think that there's some emotions that a lot of us are uncomfortable with, and I think that I think some of this is embedded in our culture because I get messages from the mainstream society, and a lot of men get messages from mainstream society that only women are emotional and that men are not emotional. But what this is saying is that all of us are born with the capacity to feel a wide range of emotions. And in a way, I think most of us are real comfortable with laughter, with joy, with happiness. And some of us are not comfortable with emotions that are considered negative, such as anger. And I really think that this is a very powerful first statement because it's saying we have the capacity to feel all of this. And so anger is sometimes uncomfortable for a lot of us, but I think that healthy anger is appropriate, right? Think about movements, think about change that occurs in our own lives. Some of it is rooted in feelings of anger. So healthy anger is important. And in the wide range of emotions, I think it is very normal for us to seek validation in another person. So, okay, so he's setting the landscape here. He's also saying that we all have what it takes to feel, but to experience our feelings fully and safely, they have to be validated by someone who mirrors them. Mirroring happens when someone accurately reflects our feelings back to us with a warm welcome. We then know we are understood and it is safe to have and show our feelings. Affection impelled mirroring includes unconditional positive regard for our unique needs, values, and wishes shown by someone who mindfully provides the 5 A's. Chapter 1 talks about the 5 A's. Go back and listen to that. The 5 A's are what's necessary for mindful loving. We engage in a lot of mindless loving, but mindful loving. The element of mindfulness means that we feel love without the ego artifacts of fear, attachment, control, expectations, clinging, biases, defenses, or judgment. So at the end of chapter 1, we talk about all of these things. So I do recommend that you go back and then you'll really understand that. He's summarizing chapter 1, actually. For instance, if we feel fear, it is met with mindful attention, acceptance, appreciation, affection, and allowing. Then the fear is, in effect, fully welcomed. That is, we are able to acknowledge it and feel it safely thereafter. Yeah, and I think as a society, this just doesn't happen enough. I think sometimes we're given messages, and I really want to say sometimes I feel like men are given messages that to acknowledge that you're afraid of something is a sign of weakness. No, it's a sign of your humanness. To acknowledge that I'm mad at something or I'm mad at someone. Sometimes women are given messages that we shouldn't be mad at something. And a lot of it is engendered. So gendered responses to anger, to fear, to worry, all of these things are normal in us. And society sometimes tells us that we shouldn't feel these things at all. So I think it is okay to say, you know what, I'm afraid. I'm afraid of losing you. I'm afraid of getting on an airplane. Hello, Dr. Vibe. How are you doing? Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So yeah, I really do think that that this sets the tone for seeking validation in all of our feelings and the range of them, and some of them being uncomfortable. Okay, so let's go on to the next page, because they talk about the opposite of mirroring is shame. And I do see a lot of shame. Sometimes if we don't get validation in how we feel, then we're told that our feelings and the way our emotions are inappropriate, therefore we feel inappropriate. So I think that's what I see a lot. It's interesting. I remember doing like a YouTube video with my husband, Dr. Boyce, a while ago, and it was a clip of a woman who didn't want to relinquish her child over to the father. And she was being, rather kind of childish if you kind of look at it from that perspective. But she was saying, I don't know this person. I thought I was giving my child over to you. I didn't know it was to you and this stranger. I did not know this person. And she was demonstrating fear, right? But I think in that moment, it got into a tussle. And the audience of people, as my husband and I were discussing this scenario, everybody in the chat was really coming down on her really hard, saying, oh, she's isolating, she's, just really having negative things to say. And I was trying to get into what was she feeling in that moment. And I think some people got it, but other people were thinking that I was agreeing with this lady, and so that's one of the biggest differences that I know that this book is talking about. Understanding how someone feels does not mean that you agree with how they feel. Like, if I was in her shoes, I would have done a whole lot of things differently, right? But it's not my job to judge it, to make her feel ashamed of how she felt. I got the impression that maybe she was afraid. Maybe what she needed to have said to this particular person was, I'm afraid to relinquish my child over to you so that you can have my child in front of a stranger. I'm afraid, or I feel sad because our relationship ended and I'm jealous. I feel jealous because I would love to be in that seat. I would love for us to be a family again, right? And so this is my way of putting up blocks because I'm having some emotional response here. But anyway, so I think that is something that I want us to keep in mind, because that's how I approach my views on why Black men and women do whatever they do. I try to get into their head and try to understand how they're feeling. And this is what's called empathy. So anyway, this is what this book is talking about, is saying that to validate someone's feelings doesn't mean that you agree with them. It means that you're trying to understand where they're coming from. Okay, so let's move on. Here is an example of mirroring and its alternatives. So he's giving you an example. He's saying, let me show you, let me let you know what this mirroring seemed to be. A child is afraid to go to school for the first time, and his mother says, I know it's scary and it's okay to have that fear. I'll come to school with you today and stay with you for a while. When I come home, I'll be thinking about you. That's interesting. That's saying, even though we're not together, you're going to be on my mind. I know that you're afraid. I'm going to accompany you, but you still have to go to school, right? You're not going to let fear keep you from going to school, but it's validating. It's the mom is saying, I see that you're afraid, but I'll accompany you. That's what I'm willing to do, but you're still going to go to school, right? But as you're in school, I'm going to be thinking about you. And I think that's beautiful. And for a lot of parents, you can say, I'll be praying for you. It's like, I will keep you in my prayers and my thoughts. That's saying, no, you're going to go to school. I understand that you're afraid, but I'm going to be wishing you well. And that's important for object relations, and just for a child to go to school knowing that their parent wants them to have a really good time in school and understands that they feel afraid. Okay. So he goes on and he's dialoguing what mirroring and validation is for this parent, this mom and son or child dynamic. When I'm home, I'll be thinking about you. Then I'll come and pick you up right on time, and we'll go for ice cream. If you can be afraid, but don't let it stop you from having fun. You will have a good time at school, and I'll be there for you after school. This child, and later the adult child that this person grows into, will not be likely to abandon himself later. He will trust his ability to survive fear. Fear will not mean stop, but only proceed with pluck and with support from others. The feeling of fear has been legitimized, installed safely and permanently because it has been mirrored with the 5 A's. I really love this because this is a great way to say, I understand that you're afraid. I get it. If I were in your shoes, stepping into a brand new situation, a brand new school, I totally understand it. I had the same experience with when I went to Guyana. I spent 5 months in Guyana. It was a very long day. And I remember the very first time we got there, it was dark, it was scary. And we got to this brand new house, this brand new setting, and the children were afraid. They were like, what are we doing here? We need to go back home. What have you done to us? And all I said was, yes, this is new. This is scary. It's dark. And they were like, we want to go home. And I remember telling them, I said, I get it. This is very frightening. How about we go to bed and we wake up in the morning and we talk about it then, and that was sort of my way of saying, I understand that you're afraid. How about we're tired, we're not thinking clearly, let's not talk about it right now. I understand that you're afraid. Let's go to sleep and let's wake up in the morning and then we'll talk about it. So I remember having these conversations with my kids about something that was rightfully scary. I was afraid too. I shared with them, yeah, I'm afraid too. Let's all go to sleep. We've had a long day of travel. Let's go to sleep and let's wake up in the morning. In the morning, of course, the sun was out. We had a pool. Everything was better, right? So anyway, that's an example of how I think, looking back on it, I was able to mirror for them. Now, the author goes into comparing the response of the mother who mirrors the fear of her child to that of a mother who says, stop being a crybaby. You're going to school whether you like it or not. None of the other kids are afraid. What is wrong with you? The first mother mirrored the fear and walked her child through it collaboratively. Trust in oneself results from this approach. The second mother ridiculed the fear and associated it with inadequacy, resulting in shame. With no supportive container for his feeling, this child, who grows up to be an adult, will have to find his mirroring and the safety that results from it in some other place. Mirroring can also come in response. Okay, before I move on, I just want to say this sense of shame. It's really interesting because a child is looking for, embedded in it, looking for confirmation from their environment, right? Even as an infant. I don't know if y'all have taken a psychology course or intro to psychology. They talk about this mirroring experience that happens between a parent and an infant, right? So they'll show videos of the infant, brand new baby, who mimics the mom's facial expressions, and the mom mimics the child's facial expressions. And You know, when the baby cries, the mom is like, oh, you're crying. What's the matter? Are you hungry? You know, are you wet? And this mirroring experience is embedded in the child. So fast forward, the child is in starting kindergarten and it's feeling scared about kindergarten. That mirroring still needs to be there. Oh, what's the matter? Are you afraid? Are you worried? What are you worried about? Okay, here's the best that I can do to help you, right? I totally understand. And so this is the mirroring that can happen. Now, this is not always the case for a lot of us. And if you don't have that primary caretaker in your life growing up to mirror your experiences, or someone was absent, or when you shared your feelings, afraid, fear with a parent, and they were like, well, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you that you're going to be afraid? No one else is going to be afraid. You're going to be the only person. You start to feel that there's something wrong with you. And I got to tell you, this is the root of what online people call narcissism. Individuals who display tendencies of narcissistic behavior and toxic behavior are little hurt children who never got the validation from their parent. And I'm here to say, because individuals have these tendencies, I don't think they need to be thrown away. I think that in current individuals who've had these things, and by the way, I don't even want to label it, but I see a lot of people online labeling individuals, oh, they're just narcissistic. You know, no, I really don't think that. I think that they have these tendencies because as a young child, they were made to feel inadequate. They were made to feel ashamed. And I also know and believe that in healthy current relationships, they can grow to heal, right? And I'm not the one of those therapists who feel like because you have these toxic traits or what's called narcissistic traits, I don't think that you should be thrown away and isolated somewhere and never have a relationship. I think all of us, every single one of us, hey, everybody who's joining me, I'm Dr. Alicia, all of us have to some extent missed opportunities of being validated when we were children. There's no such thing as a perfect childhood. There's no such thing as a perfect nothing. And so there have been times, all of us in our childhood, where we needed to be validated and we weren't. And sometimes we carry that shame with us in relationships. And it doesn't mean we need to be thrown away. It just means that we need to have a loving. We need these 5 keys to mindful loving. We need these experiences in our adult relationships. And that's how we heal. It can happen. I've seen it happen. Okay. For all of us. Okay. So I want to move on. They talked about mirroring. Mirroring can also come in response to joy, right? You run into the house excited. You tell your parents about your success in gymnastics. They respond with full attention, excitement, hugs, praise, and a plan to come and watch you. They're excited for you. They mirror your joy. That's so important, right? The opposite response, now, don't get all excited. Take it easy. Let's wait and see if you still like it a month from now, right? Your enthusiasm is squashed. The first approach leads to future of self-assuredness and exuberance. The second, to a future of self-doubt and even more shame. So not only are your negative feelings not validated, but here's an example of pure joy that a child has and how parents can serve to not allow their child to be joyous, to introduce this negativity. And that reduces shame. And I will say that, you know, this is where depression, sometimes negative thinking and depression and sadness, it can begin here in these tender moments as a child where parents miss the opportunity to validate their children. Okay, and to a large extent, this happens to a lot of us, some more than others. And just because you've had these experiences where you're led to think that there's something wrong with you and you start to feel ashamed, that doesn't mean that you're not worthy of a healthy relationship. I think that you are. Okay, you're not messed up. Okay. Shaming is a form of abandonment. And holding on to our own shame is self-abandonment. So you start to walk around and you say, what's wrong with me? What's going on with me? There's something wrong with me. You carry these experiences. Wow, these experiences with you. You think that there's something wrong with me. That's self-abandonment. Now we begin to see why we fear abandonment so much. Abandonment is a terrible feeling, by the way. Rejection is probably, I think rejection is probably the worst feeling in the world. Nothing is as bad as feeling rejected. Okay. Because you really do feel like, why don't that person like me? What happened? Like they don't see my worth, you know? And so abandonment and rejection is a terrible, terrible feeling. And if you got abandoned a lot early on, you have this fear of abandonment and you tend to stay in unhealthy relationships that don't serve you, and you hold on a little longer than you need to. So anyway, now we begin to see why we fear abandonment so much. It is the absence of mirroring, and we need mirroring to survive emotionally. We also see why we fear the loss of our partner. To grieve is to find keenly isolated, is to feel keenly isolated and bereft of mirroring. We don't have enough people validating our experiences, right? To grieve with supportive others, however, is mutual mirroring. This is why funerals and public events this is why funerals are public events. Our fellow mourners mirror grief to us and we to them. Grief is healed by letting go and by contact. So it is a shared feeling. You know, this is interesting. This is the reason why we have funerals, because there's something validating. If I'm grieving and the person next to me is grieving this loss, and everybody around us, we're all grieving this loss together, it makes us feel better about the loss, believe it or not, because you're not alone in how you feel. You're not in isolation. And so, oh gosh, we only went through like the first page and we're already a half hour in. I just want to tell you, I'm Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia. If you want to work with me, any of you all grieving, you feel like you're grieving all by yourself, you can contact me at coachingwithdralicia.com. I do work with couples. So if you're in a relationship and you don't feel like you're getting the validation that you feel like you need, you can fill out my intake, talk to your partner or spouse and say, hey, I think we need to work on this. And then you could meet with me and see if it's a good fit. And if you want to work on some of these on the individual level, you can also go to Coaching with Dr. Alicia. There's a link there to click on for individual work. And then there's also a link for couples. And this is what I've been doing I've been a licensed therapist for 21 years. And I've been doing this work for over 30 years. I'm older than I look, I think. Anyway, I want to say hello, Amun Ra, Osiris. What? We just got back from Egypt and you got Osiris going on. How you doing? Amun Ra. Yes, Amun Ra, Osiris. That's what's up. We got to see Osiris a lot. Repetition. I think the ancient Egyptians were obsessed with death. How to die. Paris, how you doing? Hey, hey, I'd like for you to come on and maybe we can talk about some of this as well. Hello, everyone, for being here. Dr. Vibe. I don't know if Dennis is still here, but hey, Dennis, welcome. Okay, so we're talking about how to be an adult in relationships. It's the 5 keys to mindful loving. David Richo, I'm so jealous. My feelings about David Richo is jealousy. I'm kind of jealous because he wrote this fantastic book. And I'm sorry, you know, I'm not one of those people that think that we can't learn from white folks, because this dude nailed it. And I'm just jealous I didn't write a book like this, because he is spot on. And hey, yeah, how you doing? Regina, how you doing? Regina Booker, what's up? Anyway, so we are on chapter 2. I am right now on page 57. I'm only going to do a couple of pages here because there's a lot in this book. I don't know how long we're going to take to get through it, but let's move on. Grieving, shared grieving after a funeral and of a lost one, you do feel better afterwards because everyone around you is sharing in that grief. And I think it would be beautiful if we had communities where someone has a loss or someone has a certain sort of experiences. It would be nice if all of us as a community just validated each other and their experiences, instead of putting people down and saying, what's wrong with her? She's crazy. These Black women you can't marry these Black women, and these Black men, they let you down. And it's shaming. And I think we need to focus on validating each other a little more. Anyway, okay. Allowing the mirrored partner to have their own story presents a major challenge for those who want to offer mirroring. Yeah, I find this a lot when I work with couples. Couples who argue a lot, they don't allow each other to be different. I don't think they're consciously doing this, but when I work with couples who have high rates of arguments with each other, they're not really good at allowing their partner to be different from them. Yes, you just had this experience, but you have to understand that your partner has one experience, okay? And you have a different experience. So allowing difference in experiences and knowing that, okay, this is my version of what's happened. I want to hear your version of what's happened. And I think, that is something that we need to just know. Just know that when there's an experience that's happened between you and your partner, understand that your story is your version of the story, and that your partner could have a totally different version of that story. It doesn't mean they're lying. It doesn't mean they're manipulating you. It just means that there's a difference. And can you allow difference in relationships? That is what David Richo is talking about. Look at that, Dr. Vibe. Is it a problem when a couple does not argue? Okay, that's interesting you use the word argue. I think it's a problem when a couple claims they don't have conflict. So having conflict is normal in relationships, but arguing does not have to be normal. And I think arguing is what happens when you don't allow another person to be different from you. They're going to be different, right? They're going to experience things differently. And so it doesn't have to lead to an argument. So that's the difference. Having conflict is normal, but arguing doesn't have to be. So thank you, Dr. Five, for that question. That was a really good question. Okay, let's see where I left off. Okay, when we are mindful, we are not fixing, but rather supporting another in her distress or in her choices. We respect her freedom and yet stand by if she needs a hand. This is the same protocol we follow in parenting, particularly older adolescents. Lord, they like to be independent. So you older adolescents love to be independent. And I think that we need to understand this as parents. I have older adolescents in the house, so I'm feeling this right now, right? You have to allow them to be independent because that is normal in their development. How are they going to figure out who and what they are if they're not allowed to make a mistake? right? So you have to allow this without fixing it, right? All right, so older adolescents, we do not stand by and let them be hurt. We inform them of the possible consequences. Yeah, my daughter, school is starting back and she's coming up to me. Actually, at the end of she's in her senior year. At the end of her junior year, she had to pick classes for her senior year. And she's like, Mom, what classes should I pick? And I'm like, okay. And we went through the whole thing. All I did was lay out for her the pros and cons of picking the classes. But ultimately, I said, you make the choice about what classes you want to take your senior year. And what you want to do your senior year, it's on you. But I was there for her in helping her think through some of the consequences. Well, if you pick this class, that's going to mean this. If you pick another class, it's going to mean this. So just laying out the consequences, what type of experience she wants her senior year, and if that's something she wants to sign up for. But ultimately, I kind of allowed her to choose what classes she's picked. But we had that conversation. And I think that's important for her to follow the possible consequences of choosing her own classes. But I'm not going to leave her out there to pick her classes on her own. I'm going to give her guidance. I'm going to inform her of the consequences of her choices. But ultimately, she's got to make her bed and she's got to lie in it. And that's how you learn. Let's see what the author says. Informing them of the possible consequences. Yet once they have the information, we do not stop them from making choices that may even hurt them. Wow. A mother cannot prevent her daughter's mistakes, but can help her deal with their consequences. Lord, see, this is where the helicopter parenting steps in. So that's really interesting because I was helping my daughter. She wanted to get her hair done a certain way. And I was like, that's kind of tricky. You're spending a lot of money on getting your hair done. And she went ahead, got her hair done, and she did not like it. And she wasted her money. And my thing was like, well, now those are the consequences of going to a new hairdresser. It is possible. And she paid for it with her own money. And I said, it is possible that this would be the particular outcome. And now and it was a costly mistake for her because it came out of her hard-earned money. So anyway, but it wasn't my job to fix it. It was my job to say, oh my gosh, take it down, take your hair down if you don't like it. And now So anyway, let's move on. Mirroring helps us survive emotionally. That is, to experience the events of our life with the power to handle them and without being devastated or embittered by them. If we receive no or poor mirroring, we may believe we have to attune to the other or lose our tide with them, a tide that feels so necessary to our continued existence. Oh, this is interesting. When you're led to feel ashamed of being afraid, for instance, you actually do abandon yourself. When you abandon your emotions and your feelings behind the emotions, and there was never somebody there that could mirror that could validate you when you were growing up, you learn, I can't be my authentic self and be accepted. You learn by abandoning your feelings, you are actually abandoning who and what you are. This is really interesting because in therapy, and let's see, I don't know, there's another therapist in here, Paris. Boy, it'd be nice if Paris could join me because I know in therapy, and Paris and we went to Egypt together. I think that's the same Paris. But anyway, let me know, Paris, if that's the same you. But That's what you do in therapy. The anxiety happens in a lot of us, crippling anxiety, when you cut yourself off from your feelings. You learn to cut yourself off from your feelings when you did not have a parent there or someone important in your life to validate you. And you start to think that there's something wrong with the way I feel. There's something wrong with the way I think. There's something wrong with the way I'm looking at the world, because I never got that validation that it's okay to feel and think this way. So, and that's what happens. And for children growing up, we want to connect with our parents, and we will often abandon ourselves so that we can have connection with the parent. That's how strong the sense of connection is for children. And this is kind of the consequences of not getting that validation. I hope that makes sense for everybody. But this is what he's talking about. At the expense of yourself, you learn, I have to abandon myself in order to be connected with other people. I can't be my true, authentic self and have that be validated. I have to abandon how I really feel and just go along with this other person. Yes, Ferris, you got to join me one week. Maybe you can join me on here one week and we can talk about some of these things, because this is deep. What does it say? Our unconscious is therefore not just a sea of repressed memories or unacceptable drive. It contains a host of feelings that fail to attract validating attunement, and so had to be scuttled or submerged. That's what you end up doing. If you don't get that validation, you're thinking, okay, I need to take all my feelings and I need to shove it down. I need to just bury my feelings. And, that shows up as anxiety later on in life. Burying your feelings shows up as anxiety, right? You're scared. You don't feel confident. Think about it this way. You're a child who's afraid to go to school, and you did not have somebody to mirror that fear for you to say, you know what? It makes sense that you're afraid to go to school. I'm going to be here for you as much as I can to help ease it, but you are strong enough where even in the midst of fear, you can still continue to just do it anyway, right? You are strong enough to handle it. And a lot of people who have anxiety, they just feel like they're not strong enough to handle it because they never got messages when they were growing up that you're good enough to make good decisions because you are in tune with who and what you are. Hope that makes sense to everybody, but it makes perfect sense to me. Okay. Continuing on page 57, it contains a host of feelings that fail to attract validating attunement, so had to be submerged. This is where you repress it. Okay. If, on the other hand, we received mirroring early in life and now let ourselves feel fully and appropriately, we have a safety net, a place to fall into when we face a crisis. So you're facing another crisis, similar to facing the crisis of being afraid to go to school when you were younger. When you're older and you face this crisis, you're like, you know what? Unconscious. This is unconscious. You're unconscious. You're not consciously making this decision, but you're in your mind, this process happens to say, you know what? I've been afraid before. I went ahead and did it anyway, and I came out victorious. So you know what? Now that I'm afraid, I'm still going to do it anyway because I know I'm strong enough to get through it. That's what mirroring happens to you. So when you face a crisis, you're not going to just melt and cripple and have a meltdown because you face a crisis. You're going to know that you are confirmed in who you are, and you can go forward in this crisis. Sometimes in life, we make choices and find no mirror of acceptance from anyone. Then, for the sake of our psychological and spiritual health, we need to either to seek out a support system from which to receive mirroring or to stand alone and trust ourselves when there is no support to be found. You learn to trust yourself sometimes, because as adults, they ain't gonna be no, you're not gonna have no parents standing behind you going, you can do it, you can do it. But if early on you have that sense that you can do it, then you really, sometimes you don't need to have a cheerleader cheering you on as an adult, right? Can I stand in the moonlight and feel its reflection as nature's mirroring of me and let that be enough for now? Ooh, that's powerful. How y'all feeling? How y'all doing? I am Dr. Alicia with Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I just want to let you know that we are looking at how to be an adult in relationships, the 5 keys to mindful loving. Let's see here. I'd like for everybody to text LOVE, LOVE, to 87948. Be sure to do that. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Coaching with Dr. Alicia on Instagram. And that's the best way to keep a hold of me. And to go to coachingwithdralicia.com if you're interested in working with me. I will mirror you. I will validate your feelings. And it doesn't mean that I agree with your feelings. It just doesn't mean that I agree with everything that you say. It just means that I totally understand where you're coming from. And probably if I were in your shoes, given your circumstances, I'd do the same thing too. So this is just an example of validating doesn't necessarily mean agreement. And who cares about that anyway? Who cares? So anyway, hey, thank you. Hey, I got a comment. Cherie. Ooh, Cherie's on the beach somewhere. That's nice. This is the way to becoming a mature, functioning adult. I'm here for it. Yeah, and I think that if you follow the mindful loving, I think it's the best way to approach dating. If you are interested in someone and you're out in the dating world, if you follow the 5 keys to mindful loving and you do all of these things for another person, that person will fall in love with you. Just saying. That's what you do if you're dating. Okay, let's move on. Healthy adults appreciate those who mirror what was left unmirrored in childhood. I love this, because just because you didn't get it in childhood doesn't mean that you're some narcissistic fool who needs to be thrown away. No, it says that you can have a corrective experience in current relationships. I think that's awesome. Veronica, sometimes God is the only cheerleader we need. Okay. I think to add to that, Veronica, let's look at Veronica's comment. I think to add to that, I think God speaks through us. And sometimes you will get a cheerleader in your real life as a real person, because I'm cheering you on. It's the God in me that sees the God in you that's cheering you on, right? And I think I'm adding to your very astute statement, Veronica. Okay. All right. Adults appreciate those who mirror what is left unmirrored in childhood. Healthy adults. Unhealthy adults try to siphon what they need from others. Oh, they use people. In mature relating, we find people who mirror us. We discover the same mirroring powers within ourselves and then show them to others as well. As you mirror me, I learn to assume your function. It is like copying a recording and still having the original of it. Okay, so when you give that mirroring, it's kind of like a synchronous event. We mirror each other, you mirror me. Interesting. Some parents fear their children's feelings. Yes, that is very interesting. Some of us, this gets into the psychology of why parents may fail in validating their children's feelings. And sometimes parents do fail in validating their children's experience because maybe they themselves are not comfortable. So if you're not comfortable dealing with fear, how are you going to validate that in your children? Right? If you're uncomfortable, if you were never validated in your own fear, and your child comes to you and they're afraid, you can't give to them what you never received. And so I think this is just a conscious reminder to say, you know what? My child is coming to me with a very valid emotion and feeling. And I know it's stirring up in me something uncomfortable. I'm going to recognize this and examine this. And you can make the conscious decision to say, wow, feeling afraid is really uncomfortable, and consciously make the decision to go ahead anyway and validate your children. I think that if you become comfortable with your own feelings, you can help other people become comfortable in their complex feelings. And so this is interesting. This book is interesting because some parents fear their children's feelings. Wow. When a son says to his father, "You don't understand," he may mean, "I can't show you my feelings because you can't handle them." He is protecting his father, wow, from ever having to face those frightening feelings. So children can pick up. Wow, that's heavy. Children can pick up when their parents are uncomfortable with what's going on with them. And to protect their parents, they don't even want to talk about it sometimes. That's pretty heavy. That's heavy because I'm thinking mirroring is happening with parent to child, but mirroring is also happening from child to parent because they can sense, wow, my father doesn't understand how I'm feeling because I'm watching him be uncomfortable with his own feelings. That is heavy. Think about that for a second. Anyway, that's pretty deep. We may stay in this role all of our lives. Oh my goodness. So we feel, this is why people grow up and they feel responsible for another person's feelings. Like they have to be the person to fix it because I'm going to suppress how I'm feeling and what I'm going through because I don't think this other person can handle it. Whew, jeez, that's deep. So we stay in this in our own lives, implicitly believing that some people are too fragile to receive our feelings. Wow. When we despair of mirroring and of the possibility of trusting in others, we despair the very thing that make intimacy possible. Intimacy is a mutual mirroring. Yes, because if you can't express how you feel, how's the person going to know you? If the person doesn't know you, how are you going to have a connection with them? And I'm going to tell you, I really think that a lot of men do this in their relationships because so many men get the message that how their feelings of fear, their feelings of healthy anger, it's just always told that they're wrong and they shouldn't feel these things. And men, as a result, I'm saying men for sure, because we're given these messages, men as a result feel alone and isolated, even in a relationship. They feel like they don't have anybody that they can talk to, that they could really show themselves to. Like if I tell my spouse that I'm afraid of failing, then maybe that person won't love me anymore. And maybe that person will look down on me and make me feel ashamed. And what happens is that you lose connection with that person. And it is a wonderful feeling to be totally accepted in all of your complex emotions, to feel absolutely loved and accepted. And if you feel like your partner makes you feel ashamed, dang, how are you really going to connect, and where's the intimacy? I don't know. That's heavy for me. I don't know how y'all feel. I feel that's heavy. That's heavy for me. Intimacy is mutual mirroring. And part of intimacy is saying, I see your flaws, but I love you anyway. It's okay. It's like you make these mistakes and you have shortcomings, and you have someone that could just say, I love you anyway. It is that sort of feeling that really makes you feel connected with another person. I don't know. That's deep. That's deep for me. Okay. Let's move on. The 5 A's. It is now clear. Address one essential need, and that is the need for mirroring. This is attunement, the perfect pitch of emotional acceptance and support. When our feelings as children are minimized, prescribed, or disregarded, we can't hear the full range of feeling tones, and a part of us becomes inert and numb. Part of us becomes numb. Wow. Imagine the joy we feel when someone comes along who welcomes and loves us with all of our feelings. A relationship with such a person opens and releases us. In other words, it works. It supports and enriches and insights of self-psychology, which focuses on the healing power of sustained empathetic attunement, mindfulness in relating. On the other hand, how crushed and disappointed we feel when we attach ourselves to someone whose love turns out to be a hoax. I was talking to Dr. Boyce today about this very passage, and I think I inspired him to do a whole YouTube video on it. But isn't that what the Democratic Party does to us every election cycle? I get the sense that Black people as a whole in this country, we are the only group of people that never received reparations, by the way. Every other group has experienced reparations. We're the only ones that's never done it, that's never had reparations. And I think that every election cycle, to some extent, the Democratic Party knows and tries to attune with us and tries to tell us, we hear you, we understand what you're doing. Here's what we promise we're going to do, or maybe not even give you a promise. All they're doing is listening to us as Black people, and all of the police brutality, gun violence, all of these issues that we have been faced with for years and months and years and decades. They talk to us. They come to our churches. They talk to our celebrities. They talk to our entertainers, and they're attuning to us. They're reaching out to us, and they're saying, we need your vote. And with your vote, we're going to help things become better for you and your people. We feel you. We understand you. We will help you. And us as Black people, we really are like, okay, they get us. They understand us. But how many times have we, let me quote, crushed and disappointed because we feel we have attached ourselves to someone whose love turns out to be a hoax? It's a hoax. Who shows no real acceptance of what we feel or who we are. It happens every election cycle. And I would love for a politician to just be honest and say, you know what? we can't do much for you. You know, here's what we can honestly do. Here's what we honestly can't do. There's not much we can do. I want a politician to say our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do for you. I'm doing this to try to get your vote. And I don't have anything that I could substantially put behind it. I really would love for just everybody to be honest. And I'm not just saying that this is unique to the Democratic Party, because guess what? Donald Trump is doing it also with all of those. I don't want to say redneck, because that's like putting a group of people down. And honestly, I got to know what would be considered rednecks, and they're decent individuals who have not seen the fruits of their labor. They have a legitimate gripe with America too, you know? And I just know that Donald Trump is manipulating the people who are following him the same way that the white men who are following Donald Trump and voting for Donald Trump, they are going to be manipulated just as Black people when it comes to the Democratic Party. I'm just saying, and I'm a Democrat, right? I am going to vote for Kamala Harris, but I'm not going to get swooped up into the whole emotional thing of it, right? So I'm just letting you know. But I understand it. It turns out to be a hoax. We're going to be in the same position 4 years from now. Anyway, I'd let Dr. Boyce talk about that, because he's been talking about that to some extent. Okay. Who can blame us for numbing ourselves again? Ultimately, our fear of intimacy may be a fear of our own reaching out, will be met with some rejection, which is the worst feeling in the world, we encountered in childhood. Who would not be afraid of that? Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't want to talk too much about rejection because it hurts. It's like you and who and what you are is just not good enough. And that's a terrible feeling. Okay. It does not seem appropriate to seduce or trick another person into mirroring us. A healthy alternative takes two forms. First, we may ask for mirroring directly from those we trust, right? Would you listen to my story? Would you hold my hand as I say this? Can you appreciate what I have done? This would be great in dating. If you're trying to develop trust in another person, become these qualities in another person, right? When you're dating. So that's the first thing. You know, it's important for the people that you love and the people that you trust to be able to open up to them, right? Second, can we open ourselves to mirroring that comes to us as grace? A spontaneous gift from others and from the universe. Yes, nature mirrors us too. It is holding us right now. Since we inhabit a generous universe, we are indeed receiving mirroring, and our challenge is to notice it. Wow. The kindness of the universe is reflecting in Buddha's teaching of universal compassion. When we realize that mirroring is often a form of grace, we are freed from the despair that we will not be able to find it. Wow. Contemplating an image of the compassionate face of the Buddha, we all see our sorrows and joys mirrored here. Y'all ever see, does anybody have a statue of the Buddha in their house, or is it just me? Maybe it's just me, but I have a statue right in front of my house on my porch. And Dr. Boyce and I, we sit out there and talk a lot on that front porch. And the presence of that Buddha just there, he's like sitting there in his prayer, just that statue in front of my house, when I look at that statue, a sense of calm comes over me. It's something about that Buddha statue. And you can be a Christian and a Buddha at the same time. They're not opposed to each other. for the Christians out there. At least that's from the perspective of the Buddha and Buddhist religion. They believe that they can integrate into any other religion. So a Buddhist is a way of life, and it's about mindfulness, by the way. Okay. This is heavy. This type of mirroring takes two forms: a deactivation of our clinging and fearful ego, and compassion for our plight as humans. It is the equivalent of an assisting force in facing life's conditions. Such presence tells us we may be separate, but we are not alone. We can be different from each other, but as long as you have another person, they can kind of understand where you're coming from and to mirror you, you always feel like you're not alone, like someone understands you. Very fascinating. Okay. Mirroring engenders a sense of self in us. When we internalize the power of others, they are transmuted from being their powers to being ours. The child competes with his parents for power and is frustrated in the attempt. Then he internalizes his parents' power rather than competing with them. As a result, he develops a sense of mastery and self-esteem. In adult life, he knows how to internalize other supports and thereby gain the power of support himself. An inner nurturant parent protects the inner child. Yes, that makes sense. It is what I teach in the it is what I teach in the human behavior. It's a human behavior class I teach at St. Francis. Every once in a while, I'll teach it. And they talked about how it's called object relations. So when you are able to give your children a sense of safety and a sense of confidence in who and what they are, when you're not around, they carry you with them. It's funny, when my son went to college, for the first time, he's leaving home for the first time, and he would call me and he'd say, it's interesting, I'm having these different experiences in college, but I could hear your voice in my head. I could hear you, not like he's got schizophrenia, but he carries a piece of me with him. He's saying, wow, I remember you talking about some of these things, and I carry that with you. So that's what we do as adults. We carry what our parents have taught us, becomes internalized in us, and it becomes who and what we are, and we carry them with us. Even if they're not there physically, right? We carry this with us. Carla, yeah, you're asking about the book. I guess I do need to talk about that. We are reading from How to Be an Adult in Relationships, the 5 Keys to Mindful Loving. We are on chapter 2. If you're interested in chapter 1, it's in the show notes. So you can go back and see what you missed in terms of chapter 1. But here I'm starting chapter 2. We're kind of at the end here. Yeah. So last paragraph. In the practice of devotion to Avalokiteshvara, there's some long word here I can't pronounce. The Bodhisattva of compassion. The initiate begins by honoring the Bodhisattva and ends by acknowledging that there is no distinction between them. Indeed, a shrine to Bodhisattva or a saint can be seen as a mirror of what we are in our essential nature. Oh, that's deep. That is our Buddha nature. Christ's consciousness, the breath of God, resembling what Carl Jung, I love me some Carl Jung called the higher self. We can also call that the divine heart center of ourselves. We are mirrored by the divine because our humanity includes divinity that can never be damaged or diminished. This is a spiritual implication of mindfulness, which can free us from a limiting identification with our ego and awaken us to a richer sense of our oneness with nature and the divine. Oh my goodness, I cannot agree with that more. Let me tell you, it's interesting that they bring out these long, drawn out words that I can't pronounce in this book, because this is based on Hindu religion. Let me tell you something. Have y'all ever been to a Hindu temple? Anybody been to a Hindu temple, or is it only me? I had the privilege of going to a Hindu temple and I was blown away. If anybody knows me, they know that I am obsessed with learning about the subconscious mind. I believe that any and everything that we could ever want is embedded in us, and we have to figure out ways to draw it out of us. And nothing does it more than symbols. And I will tell you that one time I went to a Hindu temple. If you ever get invited to go, rearrange your schedule and go. It is the most beautiful place you ever want to be. And that particular time that I went, was a Saraswati. I'll never forget her name. Saraswati. They were doing a Saraswati sort of ceremony for her. And Carla, you've been to a Hindu temple. It is the most. Write in the chat what that experience was like for you. It was the beautiful experience for me. Saraswati is she's the goddess of wisdom and knowledge. And it dawned on me, it was a really kind of like a way of drawing out in us wisdom and knowledge. So really what I'm saying is that all of the deities represent a quality that's embedded in us. So if you want to be wise in your choices, if you want to have wisdom and knowledge, get an image of Saraswati up there, because Saraswati is a representation of what's in us. I just got back from Egypt, and I was inspired by the trip, probably in a way that I've never been able to articulate. This is my very first time talking about this, actually, is that going to Egypt, I was just blown away because there was Egyptian images all over the caves. You go into these rooms and you see images. You'll see, wait, let me see if I can look up as an example of some of the images that you get in Egypt. There is a Isis. Isis is everywhere. So there's this image of Isis that's all over the place, right? And if you look up the meaning of Isis, Isis is about marriage, fertility, and motherhood. Okay, so all you women out there, if you're interested in getting married and being a mom, connect with the image of Isis. You know, I think I have her back here. Hold on. Get a statue of Isis. Here she is. I think this is Isis. Get a statue of Isis and put that down and look at it, because she represents, for all of us, marriage and fertility and motherhood. Fertility doesn't even really mean having children. Fertility could be growing something. You want to start a business. You want it to be fertile. So connect with the spirit of Isis. I'm not saying do anything sacrilegious. I'm saying connect with that image, because those images all over those walls in ancient Egypt was a way to draw out what is in us as divine individuals. I hope that makes sense. It makes perfect sense to me. And I see Ayurvedic practice. Yeah, Ganesha is your favorite. Ganesh. Good. Thank you, Rhonda. Ganesh. Okay, suppose you have blocks. Suppose you want to do something and become something, and you find blocks in your way. Connect with Ganesh. Ganesh is what? Ganesh is like the little elephant, right? The Ganesh. Connect with Ganesh, because Ganesh is known to clear away blockages. It's a way of drawing out the qualities that you want inside yourself. So if you're going through life and you find that you're stuck, Ganesh is a wonderful Ayurvedic practice to get you unstuck, because Ganesh is all about getting yourself unstuck. I don't know. It makes perfect sense to me. I hope it makes sense to you. I think we're going to end here. It's been a while. We've been going through this. We're going to start next week. I think I'm available. I'm available next week. We're going to start on page 60 of our book, How to Be an Adult in Relationships, the 5 Keys to Mindful Loving. If you want to be married and start a family, connect with Isis. If you're stuck in your relationships, or if you feel stuck in your life in any way, connect with Ganesh. I mean, these are just representations. All of the deities are representations of what's in us. So we can become whatever we want to become. And anything that's getting in our way of becoming what we want to become, you can use these symbols to draw out in you. And Rhonda says, I loved it. It resonates. All that you share. So please enjoy. Kemet. Yes, ancient Kemet in Egypt. It was inspiring to me. And I haven't even begun processing everything with Egypt, my trip to Egypt, but I will be processing and probably incorporating it into my book club. So this is my book club, How to Be Adult in Relationships. Give David Risho his money because he deserves it. I'm still jealous. I didn't write a book like this, but it is beautiful. And I think that we can learn from this. If you're interested in working with me, you can contact me at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. I work with couples and individuals, and you could, go to my website, click on that form, fill it out. I will get back to you, or be patient with me. I'm a one-woman show for most, running my business. Y'all business runners, y'all know what it is like. But I will reach back out to you, and maybe we can connect and work together. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here. And I'll see you on Sunday. Again, you can go to the show notes and get chapter 1. We are now on chapter 2. Don't get left behind. This book is amazing. And maybe I'll reach out to David Risho and see if he can join me one day, the author of the book. But anyway, goodbye, everybody. Thank you for joining.